Chapter 115. After killing Mo, a smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. Changing to a sun-chasing archer once made him very depressed. Because of this, he had trained hard in archery and did not want to leave it to fate. However, he did not have the talent in this area. No matter how much he practiced, the effect was weak. At the end of his rope, Yi Chen, who had almost given up on himself, decided to cultivate close-range combat under Yi Shui's guidance. With the support of the sun-chasing power and the agile movement technique of the sliding steps, as well as the close-range combat techniques that did not require a profession in the cultivation pavilion, he managed to master some skills. In this aspect, Yi Chen showed his talent and found that he was very suitable to use a bow for close combat. Killing Mo just now made Yi Chen know that he was right to take this path. An archer should F**king fight in close combat, and a close combat archer was the best. Yi Chen's performance also made everyone watching the game dumbfounded. Before this, the bullet screen was filled with comments like Mo was awesome, but now everyone was completely dumbfounded. Such a cool fighting style, an archer who did not need arrows, but relied on the bow to hit the opponent's face, had destroyed the worldview of many players. Sure enough, the first place is the first place. When did your brother Chen let you down? A close combat archer is awesome. I finally found out that Yi Chen really can't be judged by the secular standard. He will always surprise you. It's so exciting. A close combat archer is awesome. Brother Chen's cool tricks are endless. The number one talent of the year must belong to you. What a breathtaking operation. Such a skilled close combat technique, I want to know what he has experienced. Desperate Yi Chen did not come out of nowhere. Several actual battles have proven everything. I guess Yi Chen may be the legendary son of luck. Laughing emoji. In the Shark Live streaming platform outside the arena, a lot of praises for Yi Chen flashed across the bullet screen. At the resurrection point, Mo's eyes were dull. This battle had given him a huge blow. He could not believe that he had attacked Yi Chen in a direct confrontation. How was this possible? This failure made Mo fall into isolation again. The siege war was still going on. The entire city of Beiki was filled with battle cries. The pressure on the Myth Guild was increasing and more than half of them were dead or injured. At this moment, there was a loud noise at the city gate and the entire city gate was shattered. Upon seeing this, Gu Yu's face was filled with ecstasy. Warriors, continue to hold on. The rest of you, enter the city and seize the flag. Quick! Everyone, enter the city and seize the flag. Wu Guo, Lu Chai, and the other presidents also shouted anxiously. Without the support of the backline, the defense line of the warriors of the Myth Guild was instantly broken. Tens of thousands of players rushed toward the city in a frenzy, trying to stop the Myth Guild from seizing the flag. At this moment, a white flag was erected in the center of the city of Beiki. The people of the myths had arrived first and launched an attack on the flag. This flag didn't have a health bar, so it shattered under the bombardment of spells. At this time, a game prompt appeared. Congratulations to the Myth Guild for occupying the city of Beiki and obtaining 5 minutes of safety protection. The guild resurrection point has been changed to the city of Beiki. Meanwhile, the members of other guilds who had just entered the city of Beiki were all teleported to the city gate. The broken city gate was restored to its original state. At this time, a selection panel appeared in front of Gu Yu. Please select a flag to represent your guild. In front of Gu Yu, the options for hundreds of flags appeared. After glancing at them, Gu Yu locked his gaze on a golden proud dragon flag and clicked confirm. In the eyes of the guild players outside, a golden flag was slowly rising from the city of Beiki with the word myth appearing on it. F***CK. Lu Chai shouted gloomily. Looking at the countdown on the city gate, they knew that they could only wait for the next round of attack. Apart from the powerful strength of the Myth Guild, Another important reason for being able to directly attack the city of Baki this time was that they had 6 allied guilds messing up the situation, making it extremely difficult for them to break through the siege. However, they all knew that the Myth Guild wouldn't have it easy when they were defending the city. After all, the Myth Guild had the advantage of being the first to arrive in the battle in front of the city gate. They hid at the city gate and formed a very small defensive circle. The collective attack couldn't break through for a while. However, when they entered the empty city of Baki, they were confident that they could drive the Myth Guild out in one go. "Brothers, let's clear out these 6 guilds first." At this moment Wu Gui suddenly spoke. Then, all the guild members changed their direction and attacked the guilds that had just helped the Myth Guild to defend the city. Wu Gui's words also woke Chenziu, Lu Chai, and the others up. They also led their guild members and allied forces to attack the 6 guilds to prevent them from becoming an obstacle in the next siege. During the siege protection period, these 6 guilds suddenly became the target of public criticism and were crazily slaughtered by the other guild. Congratulations to the Berserk Guild for occupying the Extreme City. Congratulations to the Flying Guild for occupying the Changwu City. Congratulations to the World Guild for occupying the Looting City. Game notifications appeared one after another. The killing in the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament was getting more and more intense. There were guilds successfully occupying the city one after another. The entire safe zone was constantly flashing with white light. Several players were resurrected every second. After the protection period was over, they once again threw themselves into the hegemony battle. This epic hegemony battle made the audience outside the arena exclaim in excitement. Many low-key gurus entered the audience's sight one after another. All kinds of manipulations emerged one after another. There was even a Berserk Guild that was usually not famous. However, they actually withstood the joint obstruction of the other 4 guilds and forced their way into the Extreme City. They won the first city with an absolute advantage. On the other hand, the number of viewers on the Shark platform had also increased continuously from the initial 2 million. After an hour of the event, the number of viewers was approaching 10 million, but it was still rising rapidly. Many people were destined to have a sleepless night. Their eyes were focused on the battlefield. Chapter 116. During the 5th hour of the hegemony contest, a statistical chart was shown on the big screen. Everyone watching the hegemony contest exclaimed when they saw the data. According to the statistics, the total number of players who died in the hegemony tournament map had reached a terrifying figure of more than 32 million times. 35,212 weapons were damaged, and 34,212 pieces of armor were damaged. The cost of repairing the equipment in the shop alone had reached a terrifying 500,000 soul coins, and the various types of potions that had been consumed were also uncountable. The flags of the 100 cities had been raised more than 3,000 times. On average, the flags of the 100 cities would be replaced several times every hour. The Celestial Dragon City in the west had been replaced 10 times in just an hour. The battle could be described as exciting, making the blood of the audience watching the hegemony contest boil. Such an earth-shattering epic battle had entered the craziest stage in the last hour. The intensity of the entire battlefield kept increasing. At the end, all the guilds who had yet to conquer the cities went crazy. In the city of Baki's hegemony contest, the owner of the city had changed several times. Even the powerful Myth Guild could only hold on for less than 20 minutes before the city was conquered. In the city of Baki's hegemony contest, other than the powerful Myth Guild, the Demolition Guild was undoubtedly the most eye-catching guild. The Demolition Guild showed amazing cohesion in this battle, especially the personal commanding ability of their guild leader, Lu Chai. They managed to defend the city of Baki for a full half an hour after they succeeded in conquering the city, setting a new record for defending a city. They even relied on the cooperation of their guild members to conquer the city of Baki 3 times, becoming the guild with the longest flag-raising time in the city of Baki. Up until now, many guilds were fighting with all their might. The battle could be described as exciting. In the last hour, the guild defending the city was still the Myth Guild. As the city gate was breached, a large number of members from other guilds swarmed in, madly charging toward the central city flag. Everyone, don't worry about wasting potions. Maintain your HP and defend the city of Baki. As long as we hold on, we'll be number one. Gu Yu's roar resounded in the live chat channel. If they lost the city of Baki again, even Gu Yu could not guarantee that they could conquer the city again under the siege of the other guild. Therefore, in Gu Yu's opinion, this was their last chance. In the eyes of the other guilds, this siege was their last chance. Their attacks became even more ferocious. Tens of thousands of spells collided in the city of Baki, destroying all the surrounding buildings. Waves after waves of attacks surged in. On the other hand, the Myth Guild, who was defending the city, formed circles of defense around the flag and resisted the invading enemies with great difficulty. This collective attack was different from before. While they were attacking the Myth Guild, they had to observe every move of the other guild. After all, there was only one city flag. The last chance must not be given to others. Lu Chai commanded, "Everyone, get into a dagger formation. With me as the tip of the dagger, we'll radiate backward and charge in." Following Lu Chai's roar, the guild members who had a tacit understanding of each other quickly gathered behind Lu Chai, forming an attack line that was as sharp as a knife. The two sides of the formation were all warrior-type professions who could resist and fight. The assassins were all at the back while the mages were all protected in the middle. They were like a sharp knife that was stabbed into the Myth Guild's defense line. At this time, the Sea of War ability was activated. With the blessing of healing and acceleration abilities, the Demolition Guild erupted with unparalleled power. They tore a hole in the Myth Guild's defense line and launched an attack on the city flag. This attack was too sudden. Gu Yu, who was defending against the enemy on the other side, did not expect it at all. Looking at the Demolition Guild that was approaching the city flag, Gu Yu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Just when the Demolition Guild was about to reach the city flag, the Heavenly Slayer Alliance led by Lu Zhan tore the Myth Guild's defense line from the side and crashed into the Demolition Guild. Even Gu Yu did not expect that the Heavenly Slayer Alliance would help him out of the predicament. There were less than 30 minutes left. At this critical moment, Lu Zhan knew that if Lu Chai really succeeded in seizing the city flag, Lu Chai would most likely be the final winner in addition to the 5 minutes of protection. Hence, he had to stop him. At this time, the other few defense lines were also torn apart. Wu Gui Yi Shuer and the others had also charged into the central area. The final battle broke out among the 6 guilds. This time, there were no allies. Everywhere they could see were hostile guilds. As long as any guild was close to the city flag, they would instantly be targeted by the other guild. The battle was getting more and more intense. "Boss Chai, I'll help you clear the way. Go and seize the flag." As Qi Ming's voice fell, he slammed the staff in his hand onto the ground. A few ghosts emerged from the ground and formed a whirlwind of ghosts with a wave of Qi Ming's hand. They swept forward abruptly and squeezed a path through the crowd. "Thank you." Lu Chai turned around and nodded at Qi Ming solemnly. After that, the gemstones on his body lit up at the same time and his body pounced forward like a ferocious tiger. "I'm here. Who dares to pass?" A figure suddenly appeared and a crimson spiritual sword slashed down violently, forcing Lu Chai to retreat. Ao Jian's figure also appeared at this time. The Myth Guild had provided Ao Jian with a large number of materials to support the spiritual sword. Hence, in the final battle, this swordsmanship master had finally appeared. "Your opponent is me." Qi Ming's figure stood in front of Ao Jian, who was about to kill Lu Chai. "It's you." Ao Jian's pupils shrank. "Of course it's me," Qi Ming chuckled. "Loser. Victory and defeat are unpredictable. You might not be able to defeat me this time. We'll know once we try." Ao Jian waved his left hand after he finished speaking. Another purple long sword shot out from his back, and he held it in his left hand. At the same time, Qi Ming also activated his ghost beast power. His body grew taller and the muscles on his arms were like dragons. His skin was covered in black, making him look like a black devil statue. The two cultivators once again engaged in a head-on confrontation. Chapter 117. This time, Qi Ming had also received the inheritance. Naturally, he was not afraid of Ao Jian. He slammed the staff in his hand again, and the ghosts that emerged quickly entangled Ao Jian. Seeing the ghosts coming, Ao Jian waved the red sword in his hand forward, and a sword ray swept out, killing the ghosts. Then, his figure flashed and he went toward Qi Ming. Bang! Qi Ming remained calm in the face of Ao Jian's attack. His right fist suddenly smashed down and collided with Ao Jian. With the blessing of double attributes, Qi Ming's punch crushed Ao Jian in terms of strength and forced him to retreat. Then, he stomped his staff on the ground again, and several ghosts appeared and were sucked into his mouth at the same time. Dark red lines appeared on the surface of his body, and his physique was once again strengthened. This time, even Ao Jian had realized that Qi Ming was no longer the fragile wizard from before. Instead, he was an opponent worthy of his full strength. While Ao Jian and Qi Ming were fighting, Lu Chai's figure flashed again, and he launched an attack toward the city flag. In order to cover Lu Chai's capture of the city flag, the remaining assassins of the guild all activated the shadow steps and followed behind him to block the attacks along the way. The Demolition Guild's tactic was undoubtedly successful. By abandoning all combat power and leaving only the assault team, they once again passed the battle line and launched the final attack toward the city flag. Lu Chai, you can't take over the city of Beiki. A burning flame suddenly appeared in the central area and Gu Yu's figure appeared in front of the city flag. A horn slowly extended from Gu Yu's forehead and his figure grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a 3-meter-tall red giant. At this last stage, Gu Yu did not hold back anymore and directly displayed the evil body. With the inheritance ability, his strength was greatly enhanced. Break! Lu Chai roared. The ruby on his body shone with a dazzling brilliance, and he used all his strength to smash Gu Yu in front of the city flag. He knew that as long as he could defeat Gu Yu, he would be the winner tonight. Roar! Gu Yu also roared at the same time and punched Lu Chai's fist. Both figures retreated at the same time. With the strengthening of the evil body, Gu Yu's strength was obviously more than one level higher than Lu Chai's. He had the upper hand in this punch and blasted Lu Chai a few meters back. At this moment, a bloody mist suddenly rose around them. The blood on the ground automatically floated and quickly flowed into Gu Yu's body. Gu Yu slowly straightened his body and walked toward the city flag again. He smiled evilly. Lu Chai, you can't defeat me. I can defeat you. Lu Chai steadied himself and roared as he launched another attack. In order to help their boss capture the flag, the remaining assassin players followed closely behind him and launched their final attack. I said, you can't defeat me. With Gu Yu roar, the bloody flame, Lu blood and the blood rose. Flame, blood Gu. Gu Yu. The blood Gu. Before Gu, the Gu Yu, the assassins, clan, Enshin. Lu Ao Yang. When the two fists collided again, Lu Chai was blasted away again. His HP was already more than half. Yu. Ao. Dragon Ming, he dragon. Ao King Ao Jin. At this time, there was not much time left. Now that everyone on the periphery was fighting on their own, it had become easier for them to restrain and defend each other. The only person who could break through the tangled battle line was Lu Chai. He had a premonition that he was going to succeed. Lu Chai stood up again and looked at Gu Yu. His eyes were filled with nostalgia. He did not know how long it had been since he met an opponent who could excite him. He smiled at Gu Yu, who was full of confidence. Gu Yu, I admit that you're strong. However, you can't fight one-on-one. Oh! Gu Yu was surprised. Have you heard of thunder? Lu Chai shook his numb right hand and walked toward Gu Yu. Thunder? I've never heard of it. Gu Yu smiled faintly. He lifted his leg and stomped on the ground. Then, he dashed toward Lu Chai. However, to Gu Yu's surprise, Lu Chai did not fight him head-on. Instead, he twisted his upper body to the side and dodged his heavy punch. Weak point, left lower abdomen. As Lu Chai roared, the ruby on his body flashed and he punched Gu Yu's abdomen with an uppercut. The punch caught Gu Yu off guard and he staggered a few steps back. Humph! Gu Yu snorted as he thought it was his mistake. He approached Lu Chai again. Weak point, right side defense. Lu Chai leaped to the left with his agile feet. He swung his right fist and hit Gu Yu's face hard, knocking him to the ground. Gu Yu did not believe it. He turned over and stood up. The muscles on his body contracted as he roared and launched another attack. However, he did not expect Lu Chai to always predict his punches and counterattack at the critical moment. Looking at Lu Chai pacing back and forth on the same spot and his fierce punches, Gu Yu suddenly thought of someone. You said you're thunder. Lu Chai nodded. You're the first person to know this secret in this game. Thunder, the king who once ruled an era of combat. Gu Yu's heart was in turmoil when he heard Lu Chai's admission. What other tricks do you have? Show them to me. You're no match for me one-on-one. Lu Chai raised his fist and got into a fighting stance. Gu Yu did not refute this time. Instead, he nodded his head solemnly. Then, his eyes lit up and he turned his head to look at Lu Chai. Gu Yu's evil eye stare was his final killer move, his strongest ability. Thunder was caught off guard and was hit instantly. At this moment, he was stunned on the spot. Gu Yu quickly approached Lu Chai and punched him hard in the face, sending him flying. The situation of the battle was changing rapidly. There were only 15 minutes left. At the final stage, the hearts of the audience went through a roller coaster ride. Just when they thought Gu Yu would win, Lu Chai displayed his strong combat ability and suppressed Gu Yu. However, at the last moment, Lu Chai was suddenly restrained, giving Gu Yu another chance to counterattack. Looking at Lu Chai, who was still lying on the ground after being punched, everyone in the audience, including Lu Wu and Bailey, thought that the Myth Guild was about to succeed in defending the city and obtain the final victory. At this moment, Lu Chai was lying on the ground. His mind was in a mess and all kinds of negative emotions emerged. Memories that made him angry, sad, and desperate began to appear in front of him. His body trembled slightly, but his fists were gradually clenched. Chapter 118. The old man's words awakened Lu Chai, who was grief-stricken. He remembered that the old man once said that he wanted to see Lu Chai become the champion of the national fighting competition one day. However, what surprised them even more was that the roaring heroic spirit suddenly stopped trembling when it was about to leave. Don't tell me that all your previous matches were rigged? However, the doctor stuffed a note into his hand and told him that this was the last thing the old man wanted to say to him. Lu Chai rushed home like a madman, but when he saw the old man with white hair, he had already left. Lu Chai's favorite thing to do in school was to be laughed at and then beat the person who laughed at him. In the artifact space, a heroic spirit was constantly trembling and roaring in the spirit summoning hall. Finally, under everyone's expectations, this genius from the amateur group stepped into the professional fighting ring. I promised him that I won't lose. Under the gaze of the evil eye, many past memories that made him sad, angry, and desperate appeared in Lu Chai's mind. These memories kept playing in his mind like a slideshow. His childhood was undoubtedly dark. He was often caught and sent to the juvenile detention center. He was the scum of society in everyone's eyes. In the following days, Lu Chai trained during the day and talked to the old man at night, learning how to behave. In the second match, Lu Chai stepped into the ring with great psychological pressure. As expected, he was defeated again. However, one day, he met an old man who changed his fate. Without the old man by his side, Lu Chai had no one to guide him and was deeply immersed in this colorful world. At that time, Lu Chai had not trained for 5 months and his body quality had seriously declined. However, he was full of confidence and even indulged himself before the match. It feels that its inheritance is not worthy of him. His willpower and the heart of a powerhouse have surpassed the heroic spirit itself, Bailey said with a solemn expression. At that time, Lu Chai thought that this was the end of his life, living a mediocre life. His glory days began. In the next 3 years, Lu Chai won 3 gold medals in the amateur tournament of the grappling master. He was also given the name Thunder because of his ferocious punching technique, which meant that he could defeat his opponent as fast as lightning. When he returned home that time, he thought the old man would be very angry, but the old man patted him on the shoulder kindly. A combat genius from the amateur group who lost 4 times in a row, ha ha. This time, Lu Chai was less pompous and less aggressive, but more determined. The young Lu Chai raised his head and looked at the old man with a puzzled gaze. In Lu Chai's opinion, other than being fierce and aggressive, there was nothing good about him. Lu Wu and Bailey were horrified. To Lu Chai's surprise, the old man did not choose to call the police. Instead, he gestured for Lu Chai to calm down and took the initiative to hand over the food on the shelf. Haha, Thunder, the future king of combat, you really know how to joke. What everyone, including the members of the Demolition Guild, did not know was that their leader, Lu Chai, was actually the most famous combat genius in Chi Dragon. He was the uncrowned king who had once ruled the combat world during his prime, Thunder. At the age of 15, after 3 years of hard training, Lu Chai signed up for the amateur combat competition with the support of the old man. However, this scene was not witnessed by the old man, which was also Lu Chai's lifelong regret. He overcame all obstacles along the way and defeated countless veteran fighters who had been famous for a long time. After that, he became the guardian of the Golden Combat Ring for 8 years and was the uncrowned king of the combat world. Thunder's name was also known throughout the country and the world because of this. I won't be defeated again. Lu Chai's hands bled from the abrasion, forming calluses, and continued to bleed. Lu Chai numbed the pain in his heart with high-intensity training. At this time, the only goal in his heart was to fulfill the last promise that he had made to his father. It was raining when he just came out of the juvenile detention center. Hungry, he went to a supermarket to steal, but he was discovered because he accidentally bumped into the shelf and made a sound. It was also this time that Lu Chai proved to the world that he was the real combat genius and the future king of the combat world. Lu Chai, who was lying on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes and dodged Gu Yu's punch. Later, Lu Chai found out that the old man used to be a combat expert when he was young and retired due to injuries. His biggest regret was that he could no longer go on the combat stage. However, reality gave him a hard slap in the face. He was defeated in the first match, and it was a crushing defeat. 4th match. Defeat 3rd match. Defeat. His fierce punching skills made him stand out in the amateur group and became a young genius in the eyes of others. After that, the old man treated Lu Chai like his own son. Lu Chai, who was originally quiet, also became more cheerful after constant contact with the old man. Finally, he was persuaded to drop out of school after the joint appeal of many parents. Even though the old man begged again and again, the result could not be changed. The public was in an uproar and there was a lot of negative news about him in the media reports. This tortured Lu Chai to the point that he almost couldn't recover from the setback. Lu Chai's talent began to show at that time. In the eyes of the old man, he was a natural combat genius. He constantly increased the intensity of his training, broke through his limits, and played his strength. Every day, he punched the sandbag again and again, countless times. Since then, the king had returned. This was the first time in his life that he cried. At this time, Lu Chai suddenly felt that he no longer had any nostalgia for this world. Become a combat expert, I'll teach you, the old man said with a smile. What's wrong? Lu Wu was full of doubts. The punch hit the old man, causing him to cover his chest and take a few steps back. With the increase of his fame, Lu Chai gradually became rich. He was also attracted by this extravagant world and gradually fell into depravity. However, the bad news did not stop there. A few days later, Lu Chai received news that the old man had contracted an illness and was being treated. After the old man was buried, Lu Chai kowtowed to the old man's tombstone and said, Lu Chai could still clearly remember the old man's trembling appearance when he went in and out of the principal's office. Facing the old man who came to check on him, Lu Chai's eyes were fierce. He turned around and punched the old man. Lu Chai had been very strong since he was young. He could defeat several people of his age. The tough environment he grew up in had also shaped his strong character. In the face of tough training, he showed maturity that was not supposed to be present at his age. At this time, Lu Chai had already retired. The unstoppable spirit of the past had long been restrained. However, at this moment, under the stimulation of the evil eye stare, memories emerged. The most ferocious beast in the combat world had awakened again. They did not expect Lu Chai to resonate with the heroic spirit at this moment. Do you remember what I said? You also have a talent that others do not have. Losing is not scary. What is scary is not having the determination to win again. Do you still remember what you promised me? The appearance of the old man was like a ray of light in the dark night, illuminating Lu Chai, who was curled up in the darkness. That was the first time Lu Chai met the old man. After understanding Lu Chai's experience, the old man said something that Lu Chai could not forget until now. A year later, Lu Chai, who had once again passed the amateur category, stood in the ring of the professional category again. In the 5th round, Lu Chai was terminated before he could even fight. His professional career had ended. I'll adopt you. Until the end, he did not get to see his father for the last time. Lu Chai opened the note with a sad heart. However, the environment Lu Chai grew up in had caused him to have an inferiority complex. Even though he went to school, he still could not fit in. Young Lu Chai's parents abandoned him. Lu Chai, who was neglected, was very rebellious at that time. He mingled with other children of his age on the streets, often fighting and stealing. He clearly remembered the mockery of others at that time. Don't look down on yourself. You also have a specialty that others don't. Even more so, no one knew the trials and tribulations that Thunder had experienced on its path of growth. This was the last promise he made to his father and life mentor. Chapter 119. Bei Li's words stunned Lu Wu on the spot. Lu Chai, with his mortal willpower, had made the Ghost General and Ghost King level Valiant Spirit in the Valiant Spirit Palace feel inferior to him. He even gave up the blessing of the power of inheritance. How terrifying was his willpower! There are two kinds of powerhouses. The first kind is powerful, but they don't have the mentality of a powerhouse. The other kind has the heart of a powerhouse. These kinds of powerhouses have an undefeatable will to fight no matter how powerful they are. He belongs to the second kind. He is a real powerhouse. There are thousands of ways to have powerful strength, but the heart of a powerhouse cannot be forged overnight. Wu, this is a real powerhouse. Congratulations. Bei Li turned around and looked at Lu Wu with a smile. Seeing that Lu Chai had resisted his demonic god's stare and avoided his killing blow, Gu Yu was stunned. This move could be said to be tried and tested, and it had never failed before. But at this critical moment it actually failed. Gu Yu had no idea how Lu Chai did it. It was the power of the demonic god. Lu Chai stood up slowly and looked at Gu Yu with a fierce gaze. He was like a tiger that was about to pounce on its prey. Gu Yu was shocked. Facing Lu Chai, who had gotten rid of the demonic god's stare, Gu Yu knew that he was no match for him. He immediately called for help in the guild channel. Dozens of guild members who were fighting immediately retreated and headed toward the city flag. Facing the increasing number of opponents, Lu Chai's lips curled into a hideous smile. His blood was boiling at this moment. This made him reminisce about the past. He enjoyed the thrill of battle. At this moment, the game notification sounded. The hidden attribute of willpower has been greatly increased. The Tidal Sacrifice ability has been activated. Tidal Sacrifice, the last gift of the sea god. After this ability is activated, the player can choose to sacrifice a tribute to receive the blessing of the sea god. The sacrificial items available are soul coins, equipment, health points, experience points, level. Note: the sacrificial items cannot be returned. Lu Chai squatted down slightly and ignored the game notification. Instead, he waved at Gu Yu and the others who were surrounding him. Kill. Gu Yu and the others immediately attacked Lu Chai. At this moment, Lu Chai demonstrated the powerful strength of the King of Combat: stagger step, side slide step, yield step, uppercut punch, swing punch, straight punch, and forward punch. He fought against more than 30 people single-handedly and had an obvious advantage. The audience outside the arena was in an uproar when they saw this scene. Everyone was shocked by Lu Chai's terrifying combat skills. A deafening roar erupted from the scene. This footwork, this fist technique, is he a thunderbolt? Is it lightning? Familiar fist techniques, familiar footwork, and his punches are as fast as lightning. I'm his loyal fan and I can't be wrong. He's definitely the god of thunder. My eyes are brimming with tears. I didn't expect to see the great god of thunder again in my lifetime. My heart is filled with gratitude. If this isn't Thunderbolt, I'm eating XX on a live broadcast. I've been watching his fights for 8 years and have always been his loyal fan. If I can't even recognize him, I can go and die. There was an uproar outside the arena. Lu Chai's body movement and fist technique were too iconic, so they were quickly recognized by the audience outside the arena. The atmosphere of the entire arena was once again pushed to a climax. Event notification. Countdown to the last 10 minutes of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament begins. The theme song sounded again in the arena, and the entire 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament entered the final stage. Finally, the defense line of the Myth Guild was broken at this moment, and all the guilds launched their final charge toward the fortress flag. Faced with an endless stream of enemies, Lu Chai turned his body sideways to avoid the collision of a rune master and looked at the game notification that was still on the interface. Sacrifice all equipment, sacrifice all soul coins, sacrifice all levels. Boom! A huge blue wave descended from the sky and smashed into the place where Lu Chai was. It wrapped around him and formed a rapidly spinning blue water ball. Inside the blue water ball, Lu Chai's 4 limbs began to extend and solidify into a blue energy body. Roar. Accompanied by a roar, the water ball was smashed apart, revealing Lu Chai, who was in the state of sea god's blessing. Lu Chai's 5-meter-tall body was composed of translucent blue energy, and behind him was a sea god's scepter that was shining with a bright blue light. At this moment, Lu Chai's appearance shocked everyone in the arena. Roar. Lu Chai's figure stood in front of the fortress flag, looking down at the front. Kill. In the final battle, no one would retreat. Everyone rushed toward Lu Chai, who was the only one blocking the way. Gu Yu and the others leaped up at the same time and attacked Lu Chai. Bang! 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 The giant blue fist danced continuously, and one by one, the figures were smashed and flew backward. At this moment, Lu Chai had single-handedly blocked the onslaught of 10,000 people, demonstrating his unparalleled strength. Looking at the endless and densely packed group of players, Lu Chai roared again. Then, the sea god's scepter on his back shook and appeared in his palm in an instant. At this moment, Lu Chai held the scepter and slammed it on the ground. Suddenly, a giant wave appeared out of nowhere behind him and slammed forward. The giant wave swept across, and a large number of players were pushed back. Lu Chai was like a god of war at this moment, and he had become an insurmountable mountain for the players. Lu Chai had put everything on the line for this battle, and the price of sacrifice was undoubtedly huge. However, he had no regrets because he knew that he could win. Because he was Thunder. At the final stage of the battle, no one expected that Lu Chai would be the one to resist the joint attack of 6 guild. However, no matter how many spells they used, Lu Chai remained unmoved. Under the blessing of the sea god, Lu Chai was not afraid of any attack. Moreover, every time he attacked, he could always kill a large number of players and turn them into white light. At this moment, Lu Chai was like a dungeon boss, and the attacking players had no way to deal with him. This scene was destined to become a classic. As the countdown of the last 5 minutes began, Lu Chai waved the scepter forward. The waves surged and swept forward again. Lu Chai slowly turned around and looked at the Baiki city flag behind him with a smile at the corner of his mouth. After the city flag was seized, all the players in the city turned into white light and were teleported to the city gate. Looking at the countdown at the city gate and the Demolition Guild's flag fluttering in the wind, Gu Yu, Wu Gui, Lu Zhan, and the others were stunned on the spot. They knew that they had lost. At this moment, there was a deafening roar outside the arena, and everyone began to shout Thunder's name. The atmosphere at the scene reached its peak. All the audience stood up and shouted for the former king. This battle was just like before. Lu Chai had once again conquered everyone with his strength as a powerhouse. The lights at the scene were dazzling, and everyone was waving their hands to vent the excitement in their hearts amidst the theme song. Thunder! 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 The audience's cheers resounded throughout the stadium. On the live streaming platform, the audience's bullet screen even covered the entire screen. There were even a large number of players who shouted the slogan, "I want to join the Demolition Guild." In an instant, Lu Chai had gained countless fans with his charm. As the bell rang to signal the end of the countdown, hundreds of cities returned to their respective masters. A supreme throne appeared in the sky above the city of Baiki. Server announcement: congratulations to the Demolition Guild for becoming the champion of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament and owning the Kingdom of Baiki. Chapter 120. Top 10 Battle Footage of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament. On the center stage of the Dragon City Stadium, the host, Fong Ping, appeared. Fong Ping's news caused an uproar among the players. Even Gu Yu was disappointed, but he was convinced by Lu Chai's performance. Many of them might not be able to participate in the Guild Hegemony Tournament, but the individual competition was different. It was a real carnival for all the players. The release of this news had given the players great expectations. The golden page flipped open slowly. The videos of Lu Chai leading his guild to capture the city and capturing the city flag with his own strength were played quickly on the page. There was a line of words below. With the end of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament, the battle history book once again appeared in the game. These wonderful videos showed the intensity and passion of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament, pushing the atmosphere of the scene to a climax. The potions consumed by the players during the battle and the cost of repairing their equipment in the shop far exceeded the amount of soul coins that Lu Wu was prepared to pay. Moreover, many players had to purchase new equipment from the shop due to their damaged equipment. A large amount of soul coins flowed back again. Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. The 6th place is from the city of Baiki again. It's the Demolition Guild's defense video. They defended the city for 30 minutes and resisted the attacks of the 6th Guild. The Demolition Guild's performance in this battle is like a godsend. This video could be said to be a textbook teaching of PK skills. If it was not for Lu Chai's godlike performance at the end, this video would definitely be the top one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to vote for the top 10 best performances of the match. You can find the voting button next to your seat and vote for your favorite battle video. The audience watching the live broadcast from outside can also vote for their favorite video on the platform. After the top 10 videos were played, the Hegemony Tournament officially came to an end. At the end, Fong Ping revealed a piece of news to the audience. According to Bei Li's description, The heart of the powerhouse was a hidden talent that even ghost generals and ghost kings like Cha Na and the Rock Ghost King did not possess. After about half an hour of waiting, the ranking list on the big screen was finally generated. Accompanied by the familiar background music of the top ranking, "We are electric," the words "Number 1" flashed across. The third most outstanding player of the match is still from the direction of the city of Beiki. The sun-chasing archer, Yi Chen, has shown us with his skillful close combat that an archer's close combat skill can be so amazing that it's impossible to guard against it. January 25, 2319, the first season of the 100 Fortresses hegemony. Under the leadership of President Liu Chai, the Demolition Guild fought a bloody battle and finally seized the city of Beiki. They obtained the ownership of the city. This battle will be recorded in the annals of history for future generations to admire. It could only be said that he had unintentionally planted a willow tree that had grown into a shade. Next up is our fifth place. In the battle for Limit City, the Berserk Guild had a brilliant performance. They taught their enemies a good lesson on how to defeat the many despite being outnumbered. As the commentator spoke, Yi Chen displayed his close combat skills on the big screen once again. The audience once again witnessed Yi Chen's terrifying close combat dominance in a desperate situation. Lu Wu was prepared to spend a lot of soul coins as a contribution to the event. However, he did not expect that after the 6-hour battle, the number of soul coins in his bank would increase by almost 1 million. Especially Liu Chai, who had the extremely rare heart of a powerhouse. This was Lu Wu's biggest surprise. As the commentator spoke, the players once again replayed the exciting scene of Liu Chai single-handedly fighting against the combined attack of the 6 major guild. He held on for the last 5 minutes, changed his fate, and seized the city of Beiki. Then, a video clip of the battle appeared on the big screen for the players to vote for. Each audience member had 3 votes in their hand. The second most outstanding player of the match is from the direction of the city of Beiki. The 2 players, Ao Jian and Qi Ming, have shown us what is called extreme control. All of their attacks and defenses are predictive. Such a terrifying individual ability is really terrifying. Everyone, the first place for the best video of the match belongs to the brilliant performance of the president of the Demolition Guild, Liu Chai, in the battle for the city of Beiki. At the end of the video, Ao Jian combined his 9 swords into one and launched a fatal blow. Qi Ming also activated self-destruct at the same time. The 2 players turned into white light and disappeared on the spot at the same time. In the end, it was a tie. This video could be said to be recognized as the best video of the match by all the audience. At that moment, Liu Chai was like a god descending to the world, looking down on the heroes and capturing the hearts of the audience. In the video, Ao Jian's attack and Qi Ming's defense were endless. One by one, the videos flashed across the big screen, once again igniting the passion of the audience. At this moment, Lu Wu had a strange expression on his face. The fourth most outstanding player of the match is from the direction of the city of Beiki, where the battle was the most intense. Mo Lingtian, who is also a sun-chasing archer, has shown us what a real wizard killer is. 1 arrow, 1 life. The Reaper at the back of the battlefield should be like Mo Lingtian. According to Bailey, Liu Chai's future potential was limitless because he would never lose himself in power. He would always maintain the mentality of a powerhouse. The 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament has come to a successful end. Thank you to all the participating guilds for your wonderful performance. Let's meet again in the personal competition. After the voting officially started, a data chart appeared on the screen. Among them, Liu Chai's personal performance video at the end was rising at a speed that was far faster than other battle videos. In just a moment, he had jumped to the first place and pulled a huge distance away from the second place. In the video, Mo Lingtian turned around confidently every time he shot an arrow. The arrows he shot hit the enemy's backline precisely like navigation, killing them easily. He even played the assassin who was advancing in the dark in the palm of his hand. It could be said that his performance was extremely outstanding. In the video, the Rampage Guild relied on the strength of a single guild and relied on tactical arrangements to forcefully tear an opening in the encirclement of several guilds and forcefully entered the extreme city. After watching the entire video, many players were dumbfounded. This kind of amazing battle technique had completely shocked all the players who were watching. The main purpose of this battle was to promote the game, and the effect was extremely remarkable. At the same time, when the live broadcast ended, the number of downloads of Battle Online on Team 173 increased rapidly. The artifact indicated that the number of registered players was approaching 2 million, and it was still increasing. Lu Wu was also very satisfied with the overall performance of the players in this event. It allowed him to see how terrifying the potential of the race that was once known as the Fourth Disaster, the race that once dominated the Three Realms. Chapter 121. On the third day after the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament, the number of online players reached a terrifying 2.6 million. The Mansion of the Dead was full of new players. These players who had just entered the game were completely shocked by the 100% realism of the game. After experiencing the content of the game, many new players lamented that they had discovered it too late and were one step behind others. However, this did not affect their exploration of the game. Even though they were wearing white-grade equipment, they could still be seen wandering around in various areas of Baiki. In the forum, these new players also asked all kinds of questions like curious babies asking for advice from the old players. Everyone, please tell me, what is the strongest class in this game at this stage? One blade enchantment. You have to fight crazily. Becoming a rune master is really strong, you can fight and resist. Did you see the boss of the demolition officers? He's a rune master. Invincible_loneliness. Although I can't beat him, isn't the strongest class at this stage the demonic god's apostle? A_large_wolfdog. The white phantom isn't weak either. Slams table. Crayon_Shinchan. The strongest class is indeed the demonic god's apostle, but the strongest player at this stage is a rune master. Laughing emoji. The original poster replied to Crayon_Shinchan. Huh? Why can I only choose 3 classes? There's no option for the demonic god's apostle. Crayon_Shinchan replied to the original poster. Silly child, go and wander around. Maybe you'll get one. Rubbing head emoji. The original poster replied to Crayon_Shinchan. A newbie, I'm just level 4. Can you tell me where to level up faster? Also, where's the top-up entrance? One punch_man. If you're only level 4, you can wander around the Mansion of the Dead and look for new wandering souls to kill. You can also form a team and go to the Ghost Mountains. It's best if you can join a small guild and ask the old players to take you to a higher level area to clear the monsters. If you're strong enough to join a big guild, you can go out to sea. As for the top-up entrance, I smashed my keyboard on the spot. Angry emoji. Shirley_the_strongest. The most suitable area for newbies is the area around the Ghost Mountains. As for the top-up entrance, slams table emoji. Crayon_Shinchan replied to the original poster. Isn't it just a top-up entrance? Come. The Alipay account XXX is the game top-up entrance. The soul coins will be credited immediately. Laughing emoji. The newbie is level 8. Brothers, please explain. I saw someone riding a wolf mount. Where did he get it? It's not even sold in the shop. Crayon_Shinchan. Don't talk, all of you. As a rookie instructor, I want to say something. Slams table. Also, to answer the original poster, this creature is called a zombie wolf. There are many of them in Liuli district. You have to let the same zombie wolf bite you to death 100 times. After that, it will recognize you as its master and sign a master-servant contract. The original poster replied to Crayon Shinchan. Is it really that difficult? Crayon_Shinchan replied to the original poster, slaps the table. How can he have such a cool mount if he doesn't have some perseverance? I'm a game collector. I'm going crazy when I see how to raise ships, raise accounts, and collect materials to advance my profession. I'm dying for it. Please teach me how to earn soul coins. I'm really going to die without soul coins. Crayon_Shinchan. Simple. Call your parents, grandpa, grandma, brother, and sister to go fishing at the beach or sneak into the North Rocks at night to cut down trees. I guarantee that you'll have a good harvest. Laughing emoji. A bunch of newbies were asking questions in the forum. Apart from the veteran players who were seriously answering the questions of the newbies, there were also many veteran players like Crayon_Shinchan who specialized in tricking the newbies. The whole forum was unusually lively. What surprised Lu Wu even more was that a group of foreign forces appeared in the forum of Battle Online and started asking questions on the official website using real-time translation software. I played this game before returning to China and was completely addicted to it. However, when I returned to China, I found out that there was no platform to download this software. May I ask the officials, when will this game be available in our country, Europe? Crayon_Shinchan. I'll give you the European server when I can defeat a bunch of newbies with one punch. At the same time, I'll immediately start the international war. Laughing emoji. Strike_gold. I'm also looking forward to the opening of a few foreign servers, but I'm not sure if they'll be in the mansion of the dead with us. If they are, I'll mourn for you for 3 seconds. Invincible_loneliness. Probably soon. This game is getting more and more popular. Your agent may already be in talks with Battle Online Company. It won't take long. Besides, if you're really living under the same sky, you'll find that the game experience is terrible. Laughing emoji. There were many foreign players who strongly requested for a foreign server. Lu Wu was already considering this matter. After the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament, many foreign game agents had approached him. The specific cooperation matters were still being discussed. The 3-month period was coming to an end. However, he had promised Wu Guoyi that he would only cooperate with him during these 3 months. Therefore, these agents had to be delayed, but it wouldn't take long. At the same time, if he were to open Battle Online overseas, the birthplace of new players would be another problem. Lu Wu and Bailey had discussed this matter. At this stage, Lu Wu had no other forces in the underworld other than the Mansion of the Dead. However, if he were to place foreign players in the Mansion of the Dead, Lu Wu could imagine how badly these foreigners would be suppressed by the old players of Dragon Nation. However, it was not that there was no solution. Bailey still gave him a suggestion. That was to directly invest the foreign players in a region that was as complicated as Baiki and not unified. Although the living conditions would still be harsh, the overall number of foreign players was even more than the players in the Mansion of the Dead. They could still develop by relying on the innate advantage of the players, but they would be suppressed in the early stages. Lu Wu planned to carefully consider this point before making a decision. After all, this was not a small matter. The better and stronger the players developed, the higher the profits he would have as the person behind the scenes. After all his resources were provided by the players. However, there was still some time before the opening of the foreign server. Lu Wu was not in a hurry. Therefore, he temporarily put this matter aside and first considered the current development of the game. These few days, the Black Sea Technology Company also contacted Lu Wu after the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament. They hoped that Lu Wu would start promoting the game in half a month as their gaming pods were about to be mass-produced and officially sold. Naturally, Lu Wu agreed. This was also a good thing for him. As long as the gaming pods were released, many players who were complaining about the 12-hour mandatory offline mechanism would have a better gaming experience. However, Lu Wu received a piece of bad news from the Black Sea Technology Company. According to the person in charge of the Black Sea Technology Company, all the major domestic game manufacturers had reached a cooperation agreement with the Jieda Technology Company. He was the only one who refused. Therefore, at this stage, the Jieda Technology Company was preparing to impose a punitive sanction on the game Battle Online after the official release of the gaming pod. Due to the various business rules involved, the Jieda Technology Company had even come up with an excuse to sanction Battle Online when the time came, which was to say that it was incompatible with the operating system. Lu Wu first felt troubled when he heard this news. This was indeed a bad influence on the promotion of the game. However, when he thought about it carefully, basically, the players who had played this game were diehard fans. Lu Wu was very confident that they would not give up on the game because of the gaming pods. At this time, Lu Wu had already thought of a counterattack. Chapter 122. Land of Tsangshu, Central Palace of His Excellency. His Excellency Tsangshu, who was sitting in the main hall, looked at the man who was kneeling in front of him with an indifferent expression. You know what to do now? The man below was shivering. Just a few hours ago, he was still a newborn soul drifting in the land of Tsangshu without any consciousness. However, the white-haired man who was addressed as His Excellency had awakened the memories of his past life and made him realize that he had already gone to hell. Such a mysterious and unfathomable method made him extremely afraid. At this moment, he did not dare to have any thoughts of resistance, fearing that he would be thrown into the 18th level of hell and suffer. Hearing Tsangshu's question, the man quickly prostrated on the ground. Lord, His Excellency has granted me a new life. I will do my best to serve His Excellency. Go, I will give you a chance to go back. Do this well and I will reward you handsomely. Looking at the man kneeling on the ground, a trace of determination flashed in Tsangshu's eyes. Night fell and the lanterns were lit. After the noise of police sirens came from afar, a series of messy footsteps and the low barking of police dogs approached. The pitter-patter of rain constantly pattered against Qin Yu's body. He leaned against the corner of the abandoned hospital and panted heavily. His expression was filled with disbelief. Fine beads of sweat mixed with blood flowed down his forehead, and his pale lips trembled slightly. Everything that happened in the past half a day made Qin Yu feel as if he was experiencing a nightmare. However, everything was too real, so real that he felt a chill down his spine. He subconsciously turned his head to look at the other end of the abandoned hospital. His vision was shrouded in hazy darkness, causing Qin Yu's nerves to tense up. After waiting for a while, Qin Yu finally let out a sigh of relief. His body leaned against the wall and slid to the ground. His mind began to drift back to half a day ago. Just half a day ago, Qin Yu finished a day of work and returned to the neighborhood he rented with his best friend, Wu Hao, who had already graduated, to prepare for dinner. However, the person who opened the door after knocking was not Wu Hao, but a tall, tanned and skinny man with a goatee who looked to be in his 30s. Both of them looked at each other for a few seconds before the tanned and skinny man smiled and said, "You're back, come on in." When he returned to his room, it was the stranger who opened the door. Although Qin Yu was puzzled, he didn't think much of it. At that time, Qin Yu thought that this person should be a guest of his best friend, Wu Hao. But after entering the room, Qin Yu immediately felt that something was wrong. The house was quiet. The television was off, the dining table was in the air, and the kitchen was quiet. The curtains were drawn, and the house was unusually quiet. This was not the scene that a guest should have in the house. Every time Qin Yu returned home at night, his roommate, Wu Hao, would prepare a table full of food for him. But now everything seemed a little off. Thinking of this, Qin Yu felt uneasy. He subconsciously called out, "Ah Hao," and then walked toward Wu Hao's bedroom. Goatee's voice came from behind Qin Yu. He called out to Qin Yu, who was about to return to his bedroom, and then opened the door to the study. "Come, Wu Hao is here." Qin Yu subconsciously turned around and looked into the study, but when he saw the scene inside, his pupils suddenly shrank. Wu Hao was tied firmly to a computer chair, his mouth was taped, and his body was trembling slightly. He looked at Qin Yu with eyes full of horror. Qin Yu immediately understood that he had encountered a burglary. Qin Yu had participated in some criminology research in school, so he knew that he couldn't be afraid in such a situation. Otherwise, if the robbers' last thought was to kill him, then if he gave in, both of their lives would be in danger. Thinking of this, he clenched his fists and was about to step forward to punch the tanned and skinny man's temple, wanting to quickly subdue him. But just as Qin Yu took a step forward, his body froze on the spot. Facing the black muzzle, Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He never thought that the robber in front of him would carry a gun. At this time, Goatee walked to Wu Hao's side and reached out to tear off the tape around Wu Hao's mouth. Then, he pulled out a triangular bayonet from his waist with his left hand. "Little Hao, if Uncle stabs you with this knife, your blood will flow out in half an hour. There's no way to save you." Hearing this, Wu Hao's face turned pale. He immediately said to Qin Yu, "Brother Yu, do as Uncle says. He's not a bad person, he won't kill us." Looking at Wu Hao's frightened but hopeful eyes, Qin Yu glanced at the gun that Goatee raised. At this time, Qin Yu also understood that the decision was no longer in his hands. At this time, Wu Hao spoke again. "Uncle, how much money do you want? I'll give it to you. We promise not to call the police." Hearing this, Goatee smiled and did not answer. Instead, he picked up a rope and walked to Qin Yu's side. Looking at Qin Yu's angry eyes, he tied him up and said, "Don't move. When I get the money, I'll let you go." Hearing this, Qin Yu roughly understood the situation in front of him. This Goatee should be Wu Hao's uncle, and the motive for this robbery was for money. But he did not understand why Goatee would target his own family member, Wu Hao. But because of this, Qin Yu believed that Goatee would not kill them. After tying him up, Qin Yu was dragged back to the bedroom and thrown onto the bed. In order to prevent Qin Yu from breaking free, Goatee even tied his limbs to the edge of the bed. Not long after, Goatee came again. This time, he brought a few rolls of tape and tied Qin Yu tightly a few times. After that, Goatee still did not seem to be at ease. He taped Qin Yu's eyes, took a plastic bag, and wrapped it around Qin Yu's ears, trying to block Qin Yu's hearing at the same time. "What a pity, you're still so young." Before Qin Yu's hearing was blocked, Goatee's sigh made Qin Yu's heart skip a beat. A chill emerged from the bottom of his heart and spread throughout his body. Qin Yu subconsciously wanted to break free, but because the binding was too strong, he could not move at all. After the door was closed, the quiet environment caused fear to grow in Qin Yu's heart. His blood stopped flowing, and soon, his hands and feet became numb. Everything fell into darkness. He could not hear, see, or speak as long as he gently shook his head. There would be dripping noises in his ears that were covered by the plastic bag. At this time, Qin Yu's imagination began to run wild. In his mind, the scene of his heart being pierced by the tri-edge bayonet and violently convulsing in a pool of blood appeared. In the end, the blood would coagulate, and the corpse would slowly stink. Qin Yu was tortured by this invisible fear, and the time seemed to be endless. After an unknown amount of time, Qin Yu, who was in a trance, was violently pulled awake. He could vaguely feel that someone was helping him untie the rope that was tied to the head of the bed, but Qin Yu could not feel happy. This was because such a rough method was absolutely not the action of a rescue worker. Sure enough, as Qin Yu expected, after untying the rope that was tied to the head of the bed, he was violently dragged outside. At this time, because his blood was blocked, his limbs were in trouble, and his strength to resist was very weak. Qin Yu tried to grab something beside him to borrow strength, because he had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. But immediately after, his head hurt, and his thoughts fell into unconsciousness. When he woke up again, Qin Yu found himself lying in the abandoned hospital covered in blood, and the Goatee was standing under the dim yellow light, drawing something on the ground with a strange expression. Qin Yu propped his body up with difficulty, and he turned to look to his side. Sure enough, Wu Hao's clothes were also torn, and he was lying on the side covered in blood. What exactly do you want to do? Don't you want money? I'll give it to you. Before Qin Yu could finish speaking, the goatee extended his hand and interrupted him. Qin Yu looked forward with the help of the dim light and found that the goatee was carrying a bucket of paint, and his hand would dip into it from time to time. He seemed to be drawing something on the ground. The tip of his nose was filled with a faint fishy smell, and then he thought of the wounds on his and Wu Hao's bodies. Qin Yu immediately understood what was in the bucket of paint. No matter how stupid he was, at this time, Qin Yu realized that the goatee was not here for money, but for another purpose. But now, Qin Yu's body was sore and weak, and he did not even have the strength to stand up. Even if he were to run, he would not be able to run more than a few steps. At this time, Wu Hao also slowly woke up, but compared to Qin Yu, he appeared even weaker. There was not a trace of blood on his deathly pale face, and his expression was somewhat lifeless. This kind of condition looked extremely bad. Sir, I'm done. What should I do next? Suddenly, the goatee stood up and muttered to himself. No one answered, but the goatee's expression became increasingly strange. After a moment, the goatee nodded heavily, and his gaze turned to Qin Yu and Wu Hao. Uncle, what exactly do you want? If you want money, I can give it to you. Just let us go. Wu Hao's voice was weak, and there was a hint of sobbing in it. Little Hao, you know that Uncle likes to gamble, and I've been a rotten person all my life. But this time, there's a chance to turn things around in front of me. How can I let it go? At this time, the goatee suddenly paused. That's right, Uncle was actually beaten to death a month ago because he could not pay off his gambling debts. Hearing this, a chill rose in Qin Yu and Wu Hao's hearts, and they could not help but feel their hairs stand on end. The goatee's eyes flashed with a frightening cold light as he gradually approached. At this moment, Qin Yu's heart was filled with despair. Was he really going to die in the hands of this lunatic? After the goatee approached the two of them, he first grabbed Wu Hao's wrist, and then he grabbed Qin Yu's hair, dragging the two of them to where he was standing previously. After being dragged to the light, Qin Yu was horrified to find that under his feet was a strange array pattern drawn with blood. After the goatee dragged the two of them to the array eye of the pattern, he grabbed Wu Hao's left hand, and then he pulled out the tri-edge bayonet from his waist and forcefully slashed it. Blood spurted and dripped continuously. Wu Hao and Qin Yu, who saw this scene, were filled with despair. Qin Yu was limp to the side, and he could only watch helplessly as Wu Hao's life flowed away. He tried to struggle and resist, but he was kicked to the ground, and he could not get up no matter what. The continuous loss of blood caused Wu Hao to fall into a coma. After the goatee put down his arm, Wu Hao was already limp on the ground, motionless. It's your turn. A bloodthirsty scarlet flashed in the goatee's eyes. He grabbed Qin Yu, who was on the ground, and used the same method to cut his wrist. You. What is your purpose in doing this? Qin Yu asked weakly. Death was so close, but he did not want to die without knowing why. If it's you, I can only say that your luck is bad. I actually only want Little Hao's life because his soul is different from others. As for you, you're just unlucky, but you can still contribute a bit of value. The goatee's tone was somewhat excited, as if he was looking forward to something. At this moment, Qin Yu's consciousness gradually blurred. Vaguely, he saw the blood-painted array emit bursts of scarlet light, and malevolent phantoms of evil spirits emerged from the array. Chapter 123. After the execution, the prison guard and the executioner left with the 4 corpses. It was a long journey, as if there was no end to it. Under the nourishment of the blood rain, the bodies of the 4 gradually solidified. Thinking about how he was wrongly accused as a murderer, how he was imprisoned, and how he was executed, Qin Yu's resentment surged, and he could not calm it down for a long time. Brother, let's go. Hearing Bei Li's explanation, Lu Wu suddenly remembered that there was a guy who was not pulled down to the underworld by the formation. No matter how unwilling Qin Yu was, he could only accept the punishment of the law in front of solid evidence. Immortal! Immortal! Seeing Qin Yu's expression, the old man mumbled a few words of joy and retreated back to the corner. "I'm telling the truth," Qin Yu said while suppressing the anger in his heart. Just as the swordsman was about to leave, rays of blue light appeared in the sky above His Excellency's palace. Arriving at a door, the prison guard opened it and said to the man, "Behave yourself after you go in." As early as a week ago, the court had declared Qin Yu guilty of murder, and because of this, he was imprisoned in this prison. In the distance, a graceful figure was standing on the water, holding a glass lamp in her hand. Her hair was tied up in a bun, and her face was like a peach blossom. She looked like a lady waiting for her husband to return. After swallowing the old woman, the evil spirit's figure became more and more solidified. At the place where the 4 people died, a vortex invisible to the naked eye was slowly forming. Yes, the 3 souls beside him were also prisoners who were executed at the same time as Qin Yu. Qin Yu did not know what crimes they had committed. Thinking about how he died unjustly and how his soul would be sucked dry after his death, Qin Yu's resentment continued to grow. When he looked up again, he discovered that there was no longer any beautiful woman. There was only an ugly old woman with a crooked back who was grinning and waving at them. "My king, should we capture more beginner souls to carry on with the plan? Let's finish this cigarette and go." He knew that his life was over. This was the last conversation they had. After getting the same answer from Qin Yu, the square-faced man stood up helplessly, shook his head and left. The man dragged his legs numbly into the room. Through the thin light, one could roughly see that the person who spoke was an old man with unkempt hair and a dirty face, with an unshaven beard. A middle-aged man in a white coat heard Qin Yu's movements and walked out from the house next door. In the darkness, Qin Yu vaguely heard Goatee's voice. "Prison? Why am I in prison?" After an unknown period of time, the prisoner carriage drove into a forest, and Qin Yu was also pressed down here. There was a crackling sound, like a piece of wood being thrown into a fire. Qin Yu could faintly hear the miserable screams of 3 people. However, when he saw that there wasn't even a scar on his wrist that had been cut open, his head buzzed. After reading Qin Yu's resume, the middle-aged man asked, "Is there any error in the information?" A trace of anger flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. "If I become an evil spirit, I will definitely kill that bastard." For his last meal, there were no relatives or friends. Only the old beggar who was in the same cell as him accompanied him. At this time, the old woman also discovered that Qin Yu was unusual, and the smile on her face gradually became fierce. Lu Wu was stunned. Just when Qin Yu was about to collapse, a hideous evil spirit's head slowly appeared on his soul's chest. I didn't kill anyone, therefore, in his opinion, Qin Yu had always been quibbling and had never told the truth. At this time, the old woman also noticed Qin Yu, who was standing still in a daze. She looked a little surprised. "What are you thanking me for? I feel bored without you to chat with. As long as you don't mind this old man's cheap mouth, I'm fine with it." Ha ha. Who was this old woman? How could she capture wandering souls in hell without permission? Could it be that the survivor is one of our players, and his soul is bound by the artifact? That's why I can't drag him down? Qin Yu's eyes opened a slit with difficulty. Still quibbling. There are only your and Wu Hao's fingerprints at the scene. There is no trace of a third person. Tell me, what is your motive for killing Wu Hao? Without waiting for the old woman to respond, the evil spirit pulled her hair and pulled her away from Qin Yu. So there really is hell after death. The surroundings were gradually surrounded by blue flowers. Specks of starlight floated up from the flowers, filling the space between heaven and earth. Pa! Crossing the boundary? Do you have any proof? Sangshu already had a guess in his mind, but he still answered firmly. At this time, a blood-colored formation diagram appeared in the hand of the leading immortal. Although the old beggar did not speak properly, he managed to make Qin Yu look down on his final life and death. A crisp sound rang out. Goatee was horrified to find that his soul had been knocked out of his body, and his body fell to the ground with lifeless eyes. At this time, Sangshu's heart was filled with anger and fear. Then, he smiled and waved at Qin Yu again. Meow. None of your business, Qin Yu murmured to himself as he looked down at his almost transparent body. It was late at night, and only the rustling of the leaves in the wind could be heard. Out. As the cat howled, its body disappeared on the spot and crashed into Sangshu's body. The old woman also obviously noticed that something was wrong. She immediately stopped sucking and turned her head to look. Hearing the police sirens and footsteps approaching, Qin Yu opened his weak eyes and finally felt a sense of security in his heart. He knew that he was going to be saved soon. At this time, Qin Yu had also recalled the memory of being interrogated. Thinking about how he was accused of being a murderer, Qin Yu felt a little baffled. The middle-aged doctor still had a smile on his face. "All right, it's not up to me whether you killed him or not. I'm just a prison doctor. When you recover, you can go and prove it yourself. My task now is to take care of you and don't let anything happen to you here. Oh, right, there's something I forgot to tell you." The square-faced man who was about to push the door open suddenly turned to face Qin Yu. "I understand. According to the old beggar, after extreme misfortune comes bliss. Living in this world was extremely unlucky, so he would definitely be lucky when he went down." Qin Yu's face was filled with resentment towards the man's suspicious attitude. A strong beam of light hit Qin Yu's face, stinging his eyes. Qin Yu nodded and drank the last glass of wine. He stood up and walked towards the prison guard. In the white light, he saw a hazy figure sitting in front of him. Death sentence with a 3-month suspension. Specks of black gas emerged from Qin Yu's body and were slowly sucked out by the old woman. His spiritual body began to fade again. The groundless murder accusation, the erased traces of the goatee, and the most unbelievable thing was that the injuries on his body had disappeared. All these things connected together, making Qin Yu feel like he had fallen into a foggy whirlpool. Everything was strange. Qin Yu glared at the old woman who was lying on him. The anger in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. Bailey chuckled. "I've already recorded the formation map. We'll know where it leads after checking. I think there will be someone who wants to stop him more than us." At this time, the executioner was already waiting in the empty space in the middle of the forest. At the same time, there were 3 other people who were about to be executed like Qin Yu. The executioner ignored Qin Yu this time. Instead, he patted Qin Yu's shoulder again and turned to walk out of the door. Someone will naturally come to kill him after exposing his existence. Bailey squinted her eyes and smiled. Qin Yu subconsciously propped himself up. His arms were abnormally sore, causing him to stagger and almost fall. "Sigh, a life for a life. There's nothing to be afraid of. Besides, there's a new life waiting for you after you go down." In a prison on the outskirts of Tianluo City, a young man who looked like he was in his 20s was walking slowly, accompanied by prison guards. As soon as Sangshu's voice fell, 8 figures appeared in the sky. They were surrounded by a mystical mist and had an otherworldly aura. Each of them was stepping on a cloud, but their eyes were filled with emotionless indifference. "Where am I?" The bright moonlight shone through the gaps between the leaves, making the ground look slightly mottled. However, if the person behind the scenes had a huge influence, he would not be able to handle it alone. The reappearance of the goatee filled Qin Yu with despair. He wanted to struggle and shout, but he had lost too much blood and his body was sore. He had no strength to resist and could only watch helplessly as he was dragged into the darkness of the abandoned hospital. When he returned home, Lu Wu glanced at Bailey, who was eating snacks. He felt helpless and extended his hand to greet her, indicating that he was back. At this moment, a faint voice was heard from afar. The melody was mellow and the voice sounded like it was crying and complaining. What are you?" Lu Wu leaped onto the sofa when he heard the voice. Qin Yu, who had suddenly woken up, felt sore all over his body. The cold touch of the iron chair and handcuffs made his body shiver subconsciously. The strong sense of exhaustion made Qin Yu feel even more dazed. "You're awake." Qin Yu felt a chill in his heart when he saw this scene. He clearly felt that something was wrong. Qin Yu answered without turning his head, "Of course. I'll prepare some good food and wine for you when you come back." His feet were connected by thick iron chains. Every step he took was accompanied by the sound of the chains being dragged. After that, the evil spirit fell into a deep silence. A moment later, the man walked out of the house. As he said this, Qin Yu's mood was extremely complicated. However, at this moment, a figure emerged from the darkness and approached him quickly. The figure grabbed his hair and pulled him into the darkness. The goatee had no strength to resist such a strange force and was instantly sucked into Lu Wu's mouth. While Qin Yu was deep in thought, the door on the other side of the infirmary was pushed open. A man carrying a long black sword on his back asked solemnly. Qin Yu looked a little confused at this moment. His mind was a mess, and he could not distinguish between reality and dreams. Qin Yu endured the soreness and stood up. He took off his shirt and began to check his body. Qin Yu's emotions fluctuated violently, and he became much more clear-headed. Images from his memory kept coming back to him. Feeling the call of the voice, Qin Yu and the three souls beside him could not help but show a look of anticipation on their faces. Their souls also quickly swam in the direction of the voice along with the seawater. "What should we do?" Lu Wu asked solemnly. "Yes." Qin Yu was left sitting on the bed in a daze, lost in thought. "Kid, after the worst comes the best. You will definitely be lucky if you go down there. When I go down there, remember to help me. It's Wu Hao. It's Uncle Wu Hao who tied Wu Hao and me up there, and killed Wu Hao." Looking at the evil spirit's face, the old woman's expression suddenly changed. The evil spirit's body surface was surging with black fog, and the outline of its body was faintly discernible. After a moment, the evil spirit suddenly let out a hysterical roar toward the sky. At this time, the man also stood up, shook his head, and sighed. Then, he walked into the small house next to him. The damp and dark room covered Han Yi's already depressed mood with a layer of haze. Ah! At this time, the old woman had already pounced on Qin Yu. At the moment of contact, Qin Yu's soul became extremely stiff, as if it had been petrified. Seeing that everyone had arrived, the executioner lit a few cigarettes and stuffed them into the mouths of Qin Yu and the other three. Qin Yu still ignored the old beggar, but the old beggar crawled out from the corner and moved to Qin Yu's bedside. As he spoke, the old beggar smiled and tore off a chicken drumstick with his hand. He stuffed it into his mouth and chewed. According to our investigation, Wu Hao's uncle committed suicide 3 years ago because he could not pay off his debts due to gambling. After a moment of talking to himself, the man with the goatee took out the tri-edge bayonet from his pocket and slowly approached Qin Yu. "Yes, I want revenge," Qin Yu replied while gritting his teeth. "Yes, he is our player, and his soul has been bound by the artifact. Even if the person behind the scenes came personally, he would not be able to take his soul away." Qin Yu was dissatisfied and filed an appeal. The court gave Qin Yu this chance, but he still could not produce evidence to prove his innocence. According to the description in the myth, shouldn't he be sentenced by the judge after death? Burp. However, if he could not prove his innocence and establish evidence of murder, then Qin Yu also understood what was waiting for him. Accompanied by the sound of the iron door closing, the surroundings fell into darkness. Awake. The man waited for a moment but realized that Qin Yu did not speak at all. Thinking that he would be sentenced to death in 3 months, Qin Yu smiled miserably. Seeing this, Qin Yu quickly turned his wrist to face himself. Forget it, the statement will be like this for now. I have a question to ask you. Since you said that there is such a third party, do you have any evidence? In Qin Yu's view, the old woman's smile was extremely ugly. It made him subconsciously frown and reveal a disgusted expression. At this time, he felt as if his soul was being strangled by the neck, and he was about to suffocate. Promise me one condition, and I will give you the power to take revenge. Hey, that's right. Young people should have some emotions. Don't be lifeless, even though you are really about to die. The old beggar added a sentence at the end with a poisonous tongue. When people are in a certain uncontrollable state, some things happen that even they themselves can't believe. When Qin Yu woke up again, he found himself lying on the bed, surrounded by the smell of disinfectant. During this period of contact, Qin Yu also had some understanding of this person. His situation was not much better than his. Although it was not a death sentence, he could only stay in this prison for the rest of his life. All day long, the two of them were alike, haggard for their master, when flowers were blooming. That's why I call him a genius for coming up with this method. Unfortunately, he does not have the help of artifact. If he wants to collect the souls of the mortal world, he can only rely on the sacrificial array, which is undoubtedly much slower in efficiency. I guess this time, the soul transfer should be his experiment. If it is effective, then he will definitely increase the number of the sacrificial array next time. The goateed man raised his head with difficulty, only to find that there was a snow-white cat standing in front of him. The cat's green pupils were shining with a frightening light, as if it wanted to suck him in. I originally came to check on your body, but it's just as well. Let's continue with the statement. Tell me what happened that day again. Qin Yu simply turned his body to the side and pulled up the quilt to cover his head. He did not want to continue being entangled with the old beggar. After the square-faced man left, Qin Yu was brought back to the prison cell by the prison guard. The gloomy sky was filled with dark clouds, and the blood drizzle was constantly falling. At this time, Qin Yu was floating on the boundless sea with the three people who had died with him. A huge suction force suddenly appeared with a faint green energy, forming a whirlpool in Lu Wu's mouth. At this time, Songshu's figure suddenly disappeared on the spot and appeared in the sky above the main hall. As he waved his sleeves towards the sky, a huge handprint floated in the air and grabbed the thousands of blue sword rays in the sky. Qin Yu was dumbfounded when he saw that the bruises and scratches caused by the goateed man's binding had disappeared. After listening to Bei Li's explanation, Lu Wu also realized the seriousness of the situation. I'll eat you. Lu Wu stared at the goateed man's soul floating in the air, opened his mouth and inhaled. A tall and straight middle-aged man with a square face walked in. This time, he had specially found a newly born primordial soul to do this in order to not be discovered by any faction. He wanted to do it quietly, but he did not expect that just as he started, he would be stopped by a faction in the dark, and even the goatee he had sent out was killed. However, even as the person involved, Qin Yu could not explain the reason. Qin Yu wanted to retreat, but his knees were firmly locked by the seawater, and he could not move at all. Born in 1995, orphan, later adopted by the Tiger Lake Orphanage in Tianluo City. Studied in XXX, graduated from XXX, and now works at XXX. Kid, I heard that you're going to be sentenced to death? That's awesome, a hoarse voice came from a dark corner. During this period of time, Qin Yu had gradually become familiar with the old beggar. Qin Yu was not in the mood to pay attention to the old beggar. He lay on the bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. After drifting for an unknown period of time, the color of the sea turned brown, and it was as deep as the water of the yellow springs described in the myths. As he gradually approached the place where the singing was coming from, blue flower buds rose from the water and slowly bloomed. Tell me the whole story. Remember, I'll record everything you say. If there's any falsehood, then I'm sorry, but you'll probably be promoted from the most likely suspect to the murderer. This is a prison, and you've lost too much blood. Rest a little more, the middle-aged doctor replied with a smile. On the other side of the sea, there seemed to be something attracting Qin Yu, making him want to move in that direction involuntarily. At this time, Qin Yu understood what the man meant. He was saying that he killed someone when his mental illness was acting up. At this time, he could see that the old beggar's legs were obviously twisted. How is this possible? Qin Yu muttered to himself. His expression was full of disbelief. This map shows the location of His Excellency Sangshu's palace in the underworld, and it's connected to the Yin talisman that you have. Are you still going to quibble? But after a moment it seemed to be faintly discernible, as if it would dissipate at any time. Suddenly, a soft and cute voice sounded in Qin Yu's mind. The old woman grinned fiendishly, revealing two fangs as she bit down on Qin Yu's neck. Seeing that Qin Yu seemed to be fine except for a slight emotional fluctuation, the middle-aged doctor turned around and walked into the small room next to him. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't kill Wu Hao, Qin Yu murmured subconsciously. Qin Yu had already guessed the identity of the man in front of him, so he nodded cooperatively. F***CKU, I just came down here and I'm going to die. I can't accept this. I'm the dignified His Excellency of the underworld. Even if I'm guilty, the Emperor of Fengdu in my area should be the one to deal with it. Sangshu waved his long sleeves, his long hair dancing even though there was no wind, and his aura rose rapidly. What does it have to do with you? Sangshu looked solemn as he looked at the sky. In a trance, Qin Yu had the illusion that he was looking at himself. After Qin Yu sat down, the middle-aged man opposite him picked up a piece of paper and read. Under the guidance of the prison guard, Qin Yu passed through a series of iron gates and finally walked out of the prison. He got into a prison van and drove towards the execution site. Qin Yu tried to break free, but the part below his knees was firmly locked by the seawater, so he could only drift along with the waves. The cold and emotionless blood-red eyes stared at Qin Yu, but Qin Yu was not afraid. Instead, he felt a sense of kinship from the evil ghost, as if they were connected by blood. Very well, Qin Yu, this is the third time. I'll ask you again, did you kill anyone? Special article, Friends from the Heavenly Realm. This is the land of Sangshu from the underworld. Why have you come? Do you think you're unlucky? The old beggar continued to prattle on. It's done. Qin Yu immediately woke up from his state of obsession. Do you want to live? Do you want to have the power to take revenge? Sangshu's expression changed when he felt the surging aura outside the hall, and the man with the sword beside him was even more terrified. Bailey nodded. I saw it, and I already know what he wants to do. He's not a simple person, what a pity! The man looked at Qin Yu's wrist carefully, and his expression became a little strange. Qin Yu sat on the iron chair opposite the desk skillfully, and looked up at the square-faced man wearing a police badge in front of him. He laughed at himself, but did not say a word. Isn't this similar to our artifact? Lu Wu was a little shocked when he heard it. I didn't King kill anyone. I didn't kill Wu Hao. Qin Yu immediately said angrily. However, compared to Qin Yu, the other three people were obviously in a daze, as if they had lost something, and were moving forward along with the waves. Continue with the plan, contact Sun Shadow, Crocodrogon, and Fenshui. Ask them to send their most elite subordinates to gather at my place. Since I've been discovered, there's no need to hide it anymore. I've been planning this for 10,000 years, and since it started, how can I stop it? Only a few people knew about this, and Sangshu was confident that those people would never betray him. The woman he loved the most in his life had been imprisoned in the depths of the dungeon, and it was impossible for her to betray him either. Qin Yu felt an inexplicable sadness when he heard the voice, and he felt a sense of familiarity towards this voice from the bottom of his heart. How is this possible? It was clearly cut open, at the critical moment when the military knife was about to pierce Qin Yu's neck. a figure suddenly appeared beside Qin Yu. The evil spirit did not answer, and its bloody mouth suddenly expanded, shoving the old woman's head into its mouth. Then, it forcefully lifted the old woman and swallowed her whole body. Qin Yu did not wait for the voice to state its conditions, and he shouted in his heart, "I agree, I'll agree to anything, even if I'll be consigned to eternal damnation, as long as I can have my revenge." As the four of them approached each other, Qin Yu's chest suddenly became hot, and the temperature rose rapidly. The bright red sparks spread rapidly, and a gunshot was heard when it reached the tip of his chest. The world seemed so strange and cold. Sangshu's expression was ferocious, and he clenched his fists tightly. However, he did not know which force was targeting him, and how they knew about his plot. The roar echoed throughout the world, as if announcing its arrival to the underground world. "Qin Yu, tell me, why did you kill your roommate, Wu Hao?" A dignified voice suddenly rang out. He glanced at Qin Yu, walked to his side, and patted Qin Yu's shoulder. In the depths of the forest where the vegetation was swaying, there was no trace of anyone except for the traces of blood on the wet soil. The midnight bell rang, and two fully armed prison guards opened the metal door. Sangshu's expression revealed a hint of worry when he heard that. Resentment and anger intertwined, and Qin Yu's chest became hotter and hotter. He patted the edge of the bed. "Kid, I don't know if you're innocent, but I'm telling the truth." Qin Yu clinked his wine glass with the old beggar, and downed it with a smile. "Old man, thank you for your help during this period." She lifted the glass lamp, and a black mist emerged from her mouth and pounced at Qin Yu. Qin Yu could vaguely hear the man telling the doctor something about needing a psychiatric examination. "No. Kill. Human." Qin Yu glared at the man and said through gritted teeth. The voice sounded like a newlywed woman who was alone in her boudoir, calling for her husband who had left home. It was poignant and touching. "Tell me more specifically, how is he going to defy the heavens?" He looked up in confusion, but found that Qin Yu had already fallen asleep with his head tilted. They retreated to the side after the prison guards, and the executioner spoke a few words. Everything that happened before Qin Yu's death flashed through his mind like a fast-forward movie. At this moment, Qin Yu's resentment turned into a nearly solid purple gas that circulated in his chest. The man took out a pen and a notebook from his pocket as he spoke. After reading Qin Yu's psychiatric examination report, the square-faced man knew that there was nothing wrong with Qin Yu's mind. He had been planning this for 10,000 years, and the blood-colored diagram of the soul transfer formation was specially researched by him for this matter. "My lord, why couldn't the soul transfer formation that you bestowed upon him take away this person's soul? Even my subordinate's soul was almost devoured during the process." In the palace of the lord of the land of Sangshu in the underworld, the other three were still in a daze as they slowly floated into the old woman's glass lamp. "There's no mistake," Qin Yu replied calmly. Waves of weakness came over him, and this weakness from the soul made Qin Yu more clear-headed. The man also recorded everything that Qin Yu said in his notebook with a serious face. The man with the goatee was horrified, and he struggled to stand up, but he saw 4 balls of green flames burning on the cat's limbs. "I can't accept this. I don't want to die. I want to take revenge." Looking at the unconscious Qin Yu, Lu Wu felt a little helpless. After some thought, he reached out his hand and took out a grain of spiritual rice from the artifact. He painfully broke it into 2 halves, and threw 1 half into his mouth, while he fed the other half to Qin Yu. It slowly sucked in the 4 confused figures who were rooted to the ground. Therefore, a day ago, Qin Yu's verdict was delivered to him. Qin Yu raised his head subconsciously. This time, the voice did not speak. "Where am I?" However, when Qin Yu mentioned the glowing blood-colored formation and the appearance of evil spirits, the man immediately frowned and interrupted Qin Yu. After making sure that the man was fine, Lu Wu jogged to the area where the blood-colored formation was painted. After carefully examining the formation, He opened his mouth and blew. A gust of green energy blew past, and the blood-colored formation instantly became blurry. After doing all this, Lu Wu immediately turned around and left. Seeing that Qin Yu had woken up, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he walked to Qin Yu's bed and sat down on a stool. Qin Yu heard him and took a deep breath. The strong smell of tobacco made Qin Yu's eyes turn red, but he still took a few deep breaths to relieve the fear in his heart. The sudden appearance of the blue rays pierced a hole in the sky, and rays of blue rays fell like sharp swords. Sangshu, you've crossed the line. We are under the order of the Big Dipper Lord to capture you and bring you back to convict you. After 3 months of torment, this day arrived as scheduled. Have you ever been traumatized mentally before? Under Qin Yu's astonished gaze, a wisp of green smoke floated out of his chest, and turned into the figure of an evil spirit with a green face and sharp fangs. Bailey nodded. I have to say, this man is a genius. He wants to collect the souls of mortals and refine them into war puppet. He wants to fight against the heavens with the talents of the human race. Looking at the beautiful face, Qin Yu could not help but tremble. A sense of guilt welled up in his heart, as if he was the heartless lover who left the lady in front of him alone in her boudoir. Since Qin Yu's consciousness was clear, the calling disappeared, and his body stayed where it was. Sangshu fell into deep thought. He felt as if there was an invisible hand hovering above him, and it could launch a fatal blow at any time. The sound echoed in the abandoned hospital. Goti, who was standing next to Qin Yu, fell to his knees when he heard the cat's meow. His face was filled with horror. He pulled his right hand out from under the blanket and held it in front of the man. Did I make this wound myself? Qin Yu clenched his fists uncontrollably. He sat paralyzed on the bed with mixed feelings, and his thoughts were in a mess. What should we do? The man with the sword looked solemn. Isn't this hell? But why is Battle Online's attribute panel here? Under the supervision of the prison guards, Qin Yu's hands were tied and pressed to the center of the open space. The room was not big and the furnishings were simple. There were only 2 chairs and a desk. Qin Yu felt exhausted when he thought of the things he had experienced recently, no matter how strong his mental endurance was. The meal before the execution was very sumptuous. It was commonly known as the beheading meal. Eating a full meal before death would ensure that one would not starve on the way to the netherworld. Why would he kill his classmate and best friend? Moreover, how could there be no traces of Goti at the scene? Initially, I chose the initial soul to be on the safe side so that no forces would suspect me. But now, I suspect that the behind-the-scenes force who stopped us from carrying out our plan already knows who I am. However, Qin Yu's face was filled with disbelief, because he realized that an attribute panel had appeared on the evil spirit. Qin Yu, male, 23 years old. Next, Qin Yu began to recount everything that happened that day from the beginning to the end. The sound of a pen sliding on a piece of paper could be heard. After he finished making the notes, the voice spoke again. There's another important point. His methods are too evil. If he really wants to achieve his goal, the mortal world will definitely be turned into a Shuraba. That's why we have to stop him. Yes. Qin Yu nodded. Chapter 124. His words had undoubtedly infuriated the 8 immortals. They looked at His Excellency Sangshu angrily and scolded him. Sangshu, the 3 realms has clearly stated that all forces from the underworld are not allowed to enter the Yang realm, let alone make contact with the human race. Since you've used the Yin talisman to enter the Yang realm, that's a violation of the 3 realms' rules. Why can't the Heaven realm, the one who set the rules, capture you? Sangshu smiled faintly. I'm really curious. Since you're so afraid of the human world rising again, why don't you just destroy them instead of making the 3 realms rules? What a bunch of hypocrite. Are you trying to start a war between the immortal realm and the underworld? That's what I said. It has nothing to do with the underworld. I just can't stand you sanctimonious people. Don't you want to capture me? Come and try. Sangshu said indifferently as he floated in the air and looked at the 8 immortals. After a few provocations, the 8 immortals who came from afar could no longer hold it in. They formed a hand seal together and blue immortal swords appeared in the air. Demon-slaying formation, slaughter. At this moment, the formation suddenly expanded, and the countless blue immortal swords that were scattered between heaven and earth began to merge together to form a giant blue sword. The 8 immortals stood behind the giant blue sword at the same time and pushed it forward together, pressing down on His Excellency Tsangshu's head. His Excellency Tsangshu did not panic in the face of the immortals' powerful suppression. He shook his right hand lightly and an ancient long blade slowly appeared. He then turned sideways and swung it forward. A giant blade ray that was hundreds of meters long soared into the sky and instantly collided with the giant blue sword. The entire sky turned bright as day and the energy released from the collision turned into circles of ripples that spread in all directions. Tsangshu, how dare you attack us? Do you really want to start a war between the two realms? I've already said that I'm me and I have nothing to do with the underworld. Boom. A loud noise came from the sky as the giant blue sword tore through the blade ray and fell again. The ancient long blade in Tsangshu's hand slashed towards the sky again. The purple blade aura continued to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth as it shot into the sky, condensing and expanding. The blade aura once again collided with the giant blue sword, and the 8 immortals' attacks were blocked once again. At this moment, several silhouettes rose into the air from the ground. My king, subordinate Riing is here to help. Your Majesty, I'm here to help you. My king, subordinate Crocodile Dragon is here to help. These figures hovered in the air and appeared beside Tsangshu, glaring angrily at the 8 immortals. The 8 immortals blanched at the sight of this. They thought that Tsangshu would follow them back obediently, but they didn't expect him to fight back. If it was just Tsangshu, they would not be afraid. However, if the other ghost kings and ghost generals were to join forces with Tsangshu, there was no way they could win. This battle has nothing to do with you. Leave. Tsangshu's gaze swept across each of his subordinates. He was relieved, but he still spoke in a firm tone. Your Majesty, I told you to get out. Don't you understand? Tsangshu's expression turned cold. Having ruled over the land of Tsangshu for hundreds of thousands of years, the intimidating aura that emanated from Tsangshu's body made the ghost kings and ghost generals tremble. Go down. This battle is a battle between the traitors of the underworld and the immortals. Do you want to become the sinners of the underworld as well? Looking at the struggle on his subordinates' faces, Tsangshu waved his hand and swatted all the ghost kings and ghost generals down from the air. After that, Tsangshu turned to look at the sky. I've been annoyed by you guys for a long time. Today, let me see what you immortals are capable of. A layer of purple energy appeared on the surface of Tsangshu's body as he spoke, corroding his clothes. Then, the purple energy slowly solidified and turned into a purple-golden armor. Surrender, you maniac! It was obvious that Tsangshu was ready to fight to the death. The 8 immortals' expressions changed. The blue greatsword glowed brightly and pressed down fiercely. Tsangshu levitated in the air as he faced the sword ray formation. He gripped his ancient long saber tightly in his right hand and faced the blue greatsword head-on. Boom! A huge airflow swept across the sky above His Excellency's palace. Break! Tsangshu's long hair danced in the wind, his expression filled with determination as he pressed his long saber upwards. A few cracks appeared on the blue greatsword and continued to spread upwards. Kacha boom! A mushroom cloud formed in the sky, and Tsangshu and the 8 immortals were sent flying at the same time. Immortals? That's all you've got. Tsangshu pointed his long saber at the 8 immortals after he steadied himself and sneered. You! The 8 immortals looked terrible. It was obvious that they had underestimated Tsangshu's strength. However, they would definitely be mocked if they returned like this. Just as they were about to attack again, a giant golden hand appeared in the sky and slowly pressed down. Even the ghost generals and ghost kings who were standing on the ground could not withstand the enormous wind pressure and were sent flying. Heavenly Lord! The 8 immortals turned around and bowed towards the sky. The giant hand carried the might of heaven and earth and came crashing down like a mountain. Sangshu looked terrible as he stared at the giant golden hand. He did not expect the Heavenly Lord to show up just to capture him. Break! The ancient long saber danced again and met the attack. Gotcha! The ancient long saber shattered into pieces the moment it collided with the giant golden hand. Sangshu spat out a mouthful of blood as the purple golden armor on his body cracked. His body fell and crashed onto the ground. Stubborn fool, I shall grant you death. A rebuke resounded in the sky. Then, the giant golden hand accelerated its descent and the space below began to distort under the terrifying pressure. Sangshu's eyes were filled with indignation. He struggled to resist, but the giant golden hand had already locked down the space within a few miles. He could not move at all under the pressure of the giant palm. He had planned for this for 10,000 years, but it was going to end like this. Sangshu, who was lying on the ground, looked up at the giant golden hand in the sky and laughed at himself before slowly closing his eyes. Am I going to die? The girl's figure appeared in his mind, and he could not help but smile bitterly. The land of Sangshu was not called Sangshu back then, but Yuanshu. He was not His Excellency Sangshu, but just a young man who wanted to become stronger. They first met on the pagoda mountain of Yuanshu. At that time, she was dressed in rags and hiding in a tree hole, shivering and looking at the world with a strange gaze. Sangshu, who happened to meet her, only gave her some food out of sympathy. He did not expect the girl to cling on to him, and he could not get rid of her no matter what. She told Sangshu that her name was Xianku, and that she came from the heaven realm. Her parents forced her to cultivate every day, and she could not take it anymore. So she secretly passed through the psychic door between the heaven realm and the underworld and came to the underworld. In the end, she ended up on the pagoda mountain, which was filled with wild beasts. However, she had never cultivated properly and was weak, so she could only hide in a tree hole to protect herself. At that time, Xianku was a naive girl who could not even defeat a wolf. Her days in the pagoda mountain were basically spent in a corner. She would go out and fight whenever she encountered a beast that she could defeat, and run away if she could not. If it was not for Sangshu, Xianku felt that she might have starved to death. However, this encounter was an unending love that lasted for 100,000 years. He kept the secret that she came from the heaven realm for Xianku, and she gradually fell in love with this man who was passionate about cultivation. Growth, bonds and feelings grew in both of their hearts, and they grew stronger and stronger. However, Sangshu did not admit his feelings at that time. To him, cultivation was more important than anything else, and he ignored Xianku's declarations a few times. He even rejected her coldly. The relationship between the two changed when Sangshu provoked a ghost king's child during the recruitment of the King Yuan's army. He was beaten to the brink of death and almost lost his life. It was also at that time that Sangshu became even more determined about the importance of strength, and he became obsessed with becoming stronger to change his fragile fate. Xianku saw Sangshu's change, and she supported him silently in her heart. However, the path to becoming stronger was undoubtedly difficult. He wanted to rely on the power of the King Yuan's army, but he needed resources and power in addition to hard work. Sangshu was not flexible at that time, and he ran into obstacles everywhere. He was often bullied, and he was on the brink of death a few times. If it was not for Xianku taking care of him, he would have died a long time ago. Xianku's mentality gradually changed when she saw Sangshu return with wounds all over his body. She knew that Sangshu would really die if he continued like this. However, Sangshu did not listen to Xianku's advice at all. He stubbornly insisted that the path to becoming stronger would always be filled with hardships, and as long as he could overcome them, he would be able to become strong. It was under those circumstances that Xian Ku made the decision to sacrifice herself for Tsangshu. In the days that followed, people gave him cultivation methods, and no one in the army dared to bully him anymore. Everything changed. His path was smooth, and with his firm determination to become stronger, Tsangshu slowly became a ghost general in the land of Yuanshu from a small soldier. However, when Tsangshu finally obtained the power he wanted, he suddenly felt empty in his heart, as if he had lost something important. At that moment, Tsangshu faced his heart and realized that he had fallen deeply in love with the woman who had been hiding behind his back and sacrificing herself for him. He could not suppress his love and went to look for her, telling her that he wanted to marry her. This time, she rejected him, saying that she was not good enough for him, and that she no longer loved him. Fate was unpredictable. Just when Tsangshu realized that he loved her deeply, she wanted to leave him. At that time, Tsangshu was very confused and did not know what he had done wrong. Until one day, he met Xian Ku again in the mansion of a ghost king. Only then did he realize how much this woman had sacrificed for him behind his back. He regretted, he hated, and he was in despair. However, nothing could be changed. Tsangshu drowned his sorrows in alcohol. He drank for 3 days and got drunk for 3 nights straight. 3 days later, Tsangshu killed his way into the Ghost King Palace alone with a sword in his hand, swearing to take back the woman he loved from the Ghost King. That time, Tsangshu was covered in wounds again, and the woman knelt on the ground with tears in her eyes, begging the Ghost King. Tsangshu's life was saved in the end, and he was once again motivated to become stronger. This time, it was for no other reason than to take back the woman he loved. Step by step, from a ghost general to a ghost king, and then to His Excellency Tsangshu. He really did it, and he killed the Ghost King with his own hand. That day, thousands of creatures from the land of Tsangshu came to congratulate him, but the woman was still unwilling to marry him. Even when he personally put on her red makeup and put on a flower crown, she said, "How can I be worthy of you, His Excellency Tsangshu?" At that moment, Tsangshu angrily questioned her why. "I'm the His Excellency Tsangshu now. Am I not qualified to marry you?" The woman smiled sadly. "How can I be the His Excellency Tsangshu if I don't have my lips for thousands of people to taste?" Their love that had lasted for 100,000 years was still fruitless in the end. In the end, Tsangshu found out that the woman had an immortal body, but she had been staying in the underworld for tens of thousands of years. Her immortal source had been exhausted, and she did not have much time left. Therefore, she did not want to be a burden to him, and just wanted to leave quietly. Tsangshu, who knew about this, searched for spiritual materials like a madman, trying to save the woman's dying life. The spiritual materials were indeed effective, and they prolonged the woman's life. However, it was the last burning of a lamp, and it seemed like her fate could not be changed. Tsangshu was in despair when he still could not find any spiritual medicine that could save her throughout the land of Tsangshu. In the end, he decided to walk the path of 1,000 calamities, even if his soul was destroyed, just to see one of the rulers of the underworld, the Emperor of Fengdu. After a narrow escape from death, he finally saw the ruler of the underworld. The Emperor of Fengdu also told him that the only way to save the woman was to send her to the heavenly realm and find a heavenly immortal to replenish her immortal source, ignite her immortal body, or obtain the celestial source of the heavenly realm for her to swallow. Tsangshu brought Xian Ku to the heavenly court after knowing the way, and they arrived at the divine gate. However, the arrogant deities ignored Tsangshu's pleas. To them, the deities who had been corroded by the Yin energy were no longer fit to be deities. They were unwilling to accept the woman's identity as a deity, and even more unwilling to save her. Tsangshu met a deity in front of the divine gate when he was in despair. The deity asked Tsangshu if he was willing to betray the underworld and become his blade. If he was willing, he would save the woman. Sangshu was lost at that moment, but he nodded resolutely when he saw the weak woman in his arms. After that, Sangshu would go to the divine gate every 10,000 years to ask the deity to replenish the woman's immortal source and ignite her immortal body. He would collect information about the major regions of the underworld and report it to the deity every 10,000 years. However, the deity was no longer willing to help Xianku 30,000 years ago. He told Sangshu that the underworld seemed to have forgotten about their past hatred, and that there was no longer any possibility of revenge. As a blade, he had lost his value, so he was no longer needed. This time, Sangshu was completely enraged. He hated the unfairness of the heavens. He had sacrificed so much for this, but why did fate play such a trick on him? After that, His Excellency Sangshu's hair turned white overnight. There was a saying that the gods were watching from above, but to Sangshu, there was only fear in the dark night. Xianku escaped a few times when she knew that she was a burden to Sangshu. She wanted to find a place to die quietly so that Sangshu would not have to run around for her anymore. The furious Sangshu had tears in his eyes. He endured the pain and imprisoned Xianku. He told her that he would think of a way, and that he would not allow her to die. Since the heartless deities were unwilling to help, Sangshu set his sights on the source of God in the heaven realm. However, the source of God was a precious treasure in the heaven realm. It was even more difficult to obtain it than a heavenly immortal. No matter how difficult it was, Sangshu did not back down. He had been planning for tens of thousands of years just to attack the heaven realm and extend the life of the woman he loved. Sangshu's lips curled into a self-deprecating smile as he looked at the giant golden palm that was descending from the sky. 10,000 years of hard work was just a joke. Chapter 125. Just when the golden palm was about to hit Sangshu, it suddenly exploded in the air, and the entire sky was filled with golden spiritual chi rain. "Big Dipper, you've crossed the line." An old voice resounded in the sky. "Fengdu, Sangshu has violated the rules we set. Why are you protecting him? Mistakes have to be punished, but since this is my territory, let me handle it." "Fengdu!" An angry roar resounded in the sky. "You want to fight?" The old voice resounded again. "All right, I'll give you face, but you must give us an explanation for this. If you don't give us a satisfactory answer, the war between the two realms is inevitable. After all, his mistake is not a small one." Then, the golden palm condensed in the sky again. It grabbed the 8 immortals and disappeared into the sky. Sigh. "Sangshu, I didn't expect you to go this far." Sangshu's lips trembled slightly when he heard the voice. He did not expect the Emperor of Fengdu to help him. He knew what a huge mistake he had made. What he wanted to do would even cause a war between the underworld and the heavens. Even so, the Emperor of Fengdu was willing to protect him. Sangshu was filled with self-blame when he thought of his betrayal. Sangshu looked at the sky and knelt on the ground, kowtowing. "Your Majesty, Sangshu is willing to take responsibility for everything I've done. I'm willing to perish and never drag the underworld down." Sigh. A sigh resounded in the sky again. "Take care of your funeral matters. Go." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Sangshu kowtowed a few more times before he stood up and walked into the palace. Inside the palace, Sangshu was wearing an embroidered royal robe, and in his arms was a beautiful woman. "Do you know how to write it?" The historian dipped his brush in his brush and raised it slowly with trembling hands. "My Majesty, do you really want to do this?" Sangshu nodded calmly. He knew that he had to make a decision in order not to drag the millions of living beings in the land of Sangshu down. The sorrowful historian finally wrote on the paper, "Sangshu, His Excellency of the land of Sangshu killed Yuan Yuanshu to seize the throne. During his reign, he oppressed the living beings of the land of Sangshu and indulged in women all day long. He was a shameless ruler with wild ambitions. He wanted to start a war between the immortals and the underworld with his own power. The living beings of the land of Tsangshu could bear witness to his sinful behavior. After he was done, the scribe took a deep breath and passed the paper to Tsangshu. Tsangshu glanced at it, and a hint of disappointment appeared on his face. He then nodded. Inform all the regions in Tsangshu and warn the future generations that the evildoer of Tsangshu has been eradicated. The world will celebrate. After the scribe left, Tsangshu looked at the beautiful lady in front of him with a hint of gentleness in his eyes. So what if I'm hated by millions of people, as long as you don't abandon me? Do you regret? You? His to say king to say emperor to is the world. The woman smiled, her eyes filled with love. Don't leave me behind this time. Let's go together. I'll be worried if you stay. The woman's eyes were filled with happiness. She picked up the wine glass from the table. A late wedding toast. Do you want me to marry you? Yes. Tsangshu picked up the wine glass too. Their wrists intertwined. After drinking the wine, their bodies slowly petrified. At the moment of death, they were still hugging each other, but their faces were filled with smiles. Perhaps leaving together was the best relief they could get from their hundreds of thousands of years of running. Sigh. The old man sighed in the hall. Tsangshu, I'll send you to the 6 paths of reincarnation. Whatever happens in the mortal world from now on, never mind. The 2 souls were extracted from their petrified bodies and disappeared into thin air. The bridge of helplessness in the 6 paths of reincarnation. The woman looked at the bowl of soup that Mengpa handed to her. A trace of nostalgia flashed in her eyes, but she still took it and drank it in one gulp. However, Tsangshu's figure appeared in her mind again when she closed her eyes. Love is deeply rooted, but this path can only be passed after the past has been severed. He's already gone, and he only drank 1 bowl. Tears rolled down Xian Ku's beautiful eyes. She reached out to Mengpo again. Another bowl. I want to be with him, even in my next life. Mengpo could not bear to see her like this, but she still handed her another bowl. Xian Ku suddenly crouched by the bridge and cried after drinking the water. I still can't forget him. Mengpa sighed as she looked at the crying Xian Ku. Forget it, I'll help you forget him. A ball of pure water spirit appeared in Mengpo's palm, and she handed it to the crying Xian Ku. Drink it, you'll forget him once you drink it. After Xian Ku drank the pure water of the river of forgetfulness, she slowly stood up and walked forward woodenly. However, for some reason, tears flowed down from her eyes. She felt like she had lost something important, but she could not remember what it was. A figure appeared next to Mengpo. He looked at the woman's retreating figure affectionately until she disappeared. Have you decided? Mengpo looked at Tsangshu and asked. This is all my fault. If I were to be thrown into the 6 paths of reincarnation, it would be no different from pardoning me. I've already made a mistake, and I'll take responsibility for my actions. I can only atone for my sins by destroying my soul. I don't want to drag the Emperor of Fengdu into this, and I don't want to start a war between the 2 worlds. Mengpa could not help but let out a long sigh as she looked at Tsangshu's determined face. She opened the gate of forgetfulness under the river of forgetfulness. Tsangshu will no longer exist in this world, but I, Mengpa, will remember you. Tsangshu nodded and walked towards the gate of forgetfulness. Mengpo's voice rang again just as Tsangshu's figure was about to be devoured by the gate of forgetfulness. 100 lifetimes of bad karma, Tsangshu. I'll help you awaken the memories of your past life, and take a look at your past love. This is the last thing I can do. The light in front of him grew brighter and brighter. At the last moment, figures appeared one after another. Tsangshu could not help but cry as he saw his 100 lifetimes of reincarnation. So, she was always by his side. In my first life, I was the king. Even though I ruled over the world and created a picturesque landscape, I was still no match for the cinnabar in her eyes and peerless elegance. In my second life, I was the general. Even though I spent half my life in glory and rode on horses, I was still no match for her black hair and flowery smile. In my third life, I was the chivalrous man. Even though I traveled the world with my sword and became famous all over the world, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my fourth life, I was the musician. Even though I traveled the world with my sword, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my fifth life, I was the monk. Even though I cleansed my heart and restrained my desires, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my sixth life, I was the minister of the country. Even though I left my name in the history books, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my seventh life, I was the scholar. Even though I wore brocade and made a name for myself, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my eighth life, I was the farmer. Even though there were peach blossoms and mulberry trees, I was still no match for her red wedding gown. In my ninth life, I was the painter. Even though painting was hard to come by, I was still no match for her simple hand. In this life, I was the king. Even though I had millions of soldiers and thousands of good generals, I was still no match for her smile. Ha 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 ha. His soul was gradually being torn apart by the river of forgetfulness. However, the pain of his soul being torn apart was nothing compared to the pain of lovesickness in 100 lifetimes of reincarnation. Sangshu's white hair danced in the wind. He looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was filled with the pain of lovesickness for 100 lifetimes. In the end, the bad karma ended in this life. At the very last moment when his soul was torn apart, Sangshu's face was still filled with reluctance. Chapter 126. The moment Sangshu's soul was shredded by the power of the river of forgetfulness, the few consciousnesses that were watching everything slowly faded away. The once overlord of the land of Sangshu had finally vanished into thin air. The only thing left behind was a fabricated history, a sinner that was despised by the later generations. However, at this moment, a crack suddenly appeared in the river of forgetfulness gate. A small hand reached out from the inside, grabbing something. Inside the house, Bailey suddenly turned around and hugged Lu Wu, who was watching TV. She burst into tears. Lu Wu, who was in her arms, was dumbfounded. Ji Wu, the person behind the blood-colored formation, is dead. I saw his memory before he died, how pitiful. Looking at the dumbfounded Lu Wu, Bailey told him what Sangshu experienced before he died, as well as the contents of Sangshu's memory. After hearing about Sangshu's tragic experience, Lu Wu sighed. Wu, I think our external server has found an ideal place to develop. Bailey lowered her head and said to Lu Wu with tears in her eyes. You mean the land of Sangshu? Lu Wu had already realized what Bailey was talking about. Yes, the land of Sangshu is now without a master. It won't be too difficult for the players to develop here. Moreover, we have gained an additional help. If we can wake him up, the land of Sangshu will be ours. Additional help? What do you mean? Bailey let go of Lu Wu's hand and drew a line in the air with her right hand. A small white ball of light slowly floated out of the artifact. I've saved him, but this is all that's left. Looking at the white ball of light, Lu Wu was stunned. This is His Excellency Sangshu? Bailey nodded and held the white ball of light in her hand, kneading it like cotton candy. This is all that's left. I've already engraved the mark of the artifact on it. Even if he regains consciousness, he will never betray us. However, it's very difficult to completely recover him at this stage. We need a large amount of soul power to nourish him. Hearing this, Lu Wu's eyes lit up. The thought of a powerful His Excellency becoming his subordinate made Lu Wu feel like he was about to rise. How many soul coins will it cost to recover him? Bailey counted with her fingers and looked up with a serious face. Probably more than 10 million. His Excellency Sangshu is very powerful. Perhaps the exact cost will be even higher. The smile on Lu Wu's face gradually froze. 10 million. Lu Wu was a little disheartened by the number. He thought that he would soon have a peerless warrior, but it seemed that he could not afford it. At that moment, he felt the pain of the players who owned the ship. While empathizing with them, Lu Wu decided to increase the intensity of his exploitation. He wanted to inflict more pain on them. Only by doing so could he alleviate his own pain. The land of Baiki, the illusory realm. This area to the south of the mansion of the underworld was shrouded in clouds and mist all year round. It was impossible to see clearly in front of one. At this moment, a few dozen members of the Heaven-Slaying Alliance slowly advanced under Lu Zhan's lead. The fog on the map slowly parted, and the scenery in the illusory world became clearer and clearer. During this period of time, Lu Zhan had been troubled. The leaders of the other guilds had their own fortuitous encounters. They were either the son of the sea or the demonic god's inheritance. However, he did not have any fortuitous encounters. In this aspect, he was lagging far behind. Therefore, Lu Zhan decided to follow the advice of the experts on the forum and bring his people around. Perhaps he would find some opportunities. The reason why he chose the illusory realm shrouded in thick fog this time was because there were not many players exploring this area. There might be a lot of unexplored resources. After walking for about half an hour, Lu Zhan and the others still found nothing. They could not help but feel a little annoyed. However, at this moment, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared in the thick fog. Its scarlet eyes stared at Lu Zhan and the others through the thick fog. Roar! Waves of fishy wind blew, startling Lu Zhan and the others. This is the place where the immortal king secluded himself. Ouch! The voice of the shadow that was hit by the stone changed suddenly. It was no longer domineering, but childish like a child. Before he could finish his sentence, Lu Zhan picked up another stone and smashed it on his body. How dare you scare me? I'm not afraid even if you're the demonic god. Upon seeing this, a few subordinates followed Lu Zhan to pick up stones and smash them on the black shadow. Stop! 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 Let's talk this out. Don't fight. The childish voice came again. The huge black shadow shrunk and the thick fog dispersed. Big Goose? Lu Zhan looked at the snow-white celestial crane in front of him in shock. It's a celestial crane. A celestial crane. Tong Gua defended himself angrily. Smack! Lu Zhan picked up another stone and smashed it on Tong Gua's head. Big Goose. This time, Tong Gua did not dare to resist. He only protested silently with resentful eyes. Big Goose, why can you speak? Lu Zhan asked curiously. Tong Gua was filled with grief and indignation. He felt that he was being bullied by such a weak creature. When the king of Baiki was still around, he was considered a ghost king and was respected by the people. However, he was now living such a miserable life. It was so upsetting. Smack! Another stone smashed on Tong Gua's head. Our boss is asking you a question. Tong Gua glanced at Lu Zhan and the others with resentful eyes again. There's no opportunity. This is an illusory realm. I'm the only one here. Smack! I'm going to kill you all. Tong Gua, who was smashed again, could not stand it anymore. He flapped his wings and rushed forward. Smack! 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 Tong Gua was surrounded by a few people from the Heaven-Slaying Alliance. He lay on the ground, barely breathing. Big Goose, are you still not going to tell me the truth? You're so weak that you can't even fly. How dare you call yourself a ghost king? I already despise your clumsiness as my mount. Don't you think you're too arrogant just because you've occupied an area of Baiki? Obviously, Lu Zhan and the others did not believe that such a weak Big Goose could be a ghost king. After all, even Cha Na, who was at the ghost general level, was terrifyingly powerful. The strength of the rock boulder was something that the players could not fight against at this stage. Lu Zhan and the others would never believe that this crane was a ghost king. Tong Gua's eyes were filled with tears. He felt like he had nothing left to live for. When the king of Baiki was still around, he treated Tong Gua as a distinguished guest. He even made Baiki's illusory realm his own territory and named him Tong Gua the Ghost King. However, he was now despised by others, even as a mount. I'm so angry. Tell me, What kind of opportunity is there in this illusory realm? I'll spare your life if you tell me. Lu Zhan threatened as he slowly lifted Tong Gua's neck. However, at this moment, a brilliance flashed across the crane's body. The artifact's analytical data appeared. Tong Gua, the Ghost King. The ruler of the illusory realm, the incarnation of the strongest guardian spirit in the land of Beiki. His strength has reached the peak of the Ghost King realm. Specific information. Note: this creature is extremely dangerous. Players are advised to stay away from it. Lu Zhan and the others were dumbfounded when they saw the data that suddenly appeared. Extremely dangerous? Lu Zhan shook Tong Gua in his hand as he spoke. He still could not believe it. Meanwhile, Tong Gua was flapping his wings. His eyes were white, and he looked like he would suffocate to death at any time. It's indeed quite fierce. Chapter 127. Lu Zhan and the others looked at each other when they saw Tong Gua, the Ghost King, lying on the ground, panting heavily. Boss, this is a Ghost King. Will we be able to level up by a few hundred levels after killing him? Or will he drop some precious spiritual materials? This is a great opportunity. Lu Zhan's heart raced when he heard his subordinate's words. He felt that he had encountered a great opportunity. Although this Ghost King was pitifully weak, its value was still there. It could be said that it was a moving treasure trove. Wait! Although he did not know what they meant by leveling up, Tong Gua, who was panting, swallowed his saliva when he heard that they were going to kill him. He quickly raised one of his wings and gestured for them to wait. However, Lu Zhan and the others did not move at all. They approached him slowly with their swords. This scared Tong Gua, the Ghost King, out of his wit. He lay on the ground and shivered, exuding the aura of a weakling. No, we can't just kill him like this. We can show off in the forum and increase the popularity of our guild. Lu Zhan, who was about to attack, suddenly thought of something and quickly stopped his subordinate who was about to pounce on Tong Gua. What's wrong, boss? The guild member asked in confusion. Turn on the live stream and get ready to show off. As he spoke, Lu Zhan turned on the game's built-in live stream. Soon, a title with the title, after 8 hours of tough battle, Slayer Alliance defeated the first top-tier Ghost King in the whole server. The livestream video appeared on the official platform. The title was indeed attractive. Soon, a large number of players flooded in. Crayon_Shinchan. Those who use the title will die a horrible death. That's right. I'm just here to argue. If I don't make you cry, I won't be as awesome as I used to be. Laughing emoji. Assassin_Creed. OP, please take note. Bragging is not only against the law, but you'll also have to pay taxes. I'm going to report you now. Shueli_the_strongest. Slayer Alliance killed a top-tier Ghost King. Chana's first warning. Chajian watch. JPG. Watermelon_Taro. You're so bored. A top-tier Ghost King? If you have the time, why don't you chop down a few more trees? I get angry when I see the ancient tree demons in front of the North Rocks. Gritting teeth. The players who entered the live broadcast room basically had the same attitude. They came with the mentality of ridiculing the original poster. They did not think that it was the truth at all. Seeing that the number of viewers in the live streaming channel was increasing, Lu Zhan, who was ready to show off, turned his attention to Tong Gua and opened Tong Gua's analysis panel. When Tong Gua's analysis panel appeared, the entire live streaming channel fell silent. Shueli_the_strongest. I'm shocked. It's really a Ghost King and a Ghost King at its peak. He's even more powerful than the Rock Ghost King, Invincible_loneliness. How did you do it? Is this the Ghost King of the illusory realm? Peppa, I suspect that you guys are cheating. I don't believe that the Slayer Alliance has the ability to kill the Ghost King. Crayon_Shinchan. Damn, it really is the Ghost King, but why does it look like a useless goose? Lu Zhan's vanity was satisfied when he saw the players' amazement in the live streaming channel. This is an immortal crane, not a goose. Tong Gua was speechless. Alright, next, I'll show everyone how to kill a ghost king single-handedly. In order to create the effect of the show, Lu Zhan did not kill Tong Gua with a single blow. Instead, he strangled Tong Gua's neck and placed his broadsword on Tong Gua's neck. Meanwhile, he kept his eyes on the number of viewers in the live streaming channel. Tong Gua struggled with all his might in the face of impending death. However, his strength was weaker than the wandering soul's, so he could not break free from Lu Zhan's strangulation. Meanwhile, the players outside the live streaming channel were eager to see what would happen after the Ghost King was killed. They stared at the screen attentively, waiting for what would happen next. The number of viewers in the live streaming channel skyrocketed. When the number of viewers reached 200,000, Lu Zhan finally raised his broadsword. Pay attention, it's time to witness a miracle. As he spoke, he swung his broadsword down. However, at that moment, Tong Gua's body trembled. A green stream of light emerged from his body and quickly covered his entire body. Lu Zhan's broadsword bounced off the moment it hit Tong Gua. Lu Zhan was also thrown away by the tremendous force. With the support of the green energy, Tong Gua's body was overflowing with light. The despair on his face had turned into surprise. Ahaha, my ability is back. There was an uproar outside the live streaming channel. No one knew what was going on. At that moment, Tong Gua stared at Lu Zhan with a sinister smile. How dare you kill me? You're really brave. As he spoke, Tong Gua flapped his wings and disappeared from where he was. He reappeared beside Lu Zhan and started slapping him. The fierce slaps stunned Lu Zhan. He could not understand how Tong Gua, who was so weak just a moment ago, became so strong all of a sudden. Don't worry, I won't let you die so easily. You're the first person who has ever dared to hit me. Upon hearing this, Lu Zhan, whose face was swollen and bruised, wanted to cry but had no tears. Tong Gua's wings slapped him again. Seeing this, the players outside the live streaming channel were all gloating over Tong Gua's misfortune. Crayon_Shinchan, why are you showing off? Isn't it good to be alive? Laughing emoji, Shueli_the_strongest. I'm dying of laughter. Boss, you're the first boss in this forum to get slapped in the face in a live streaming channel. Little sister Rong, my respect. Strike_gold, we're both guild masters. I shouldn't have laughed, but I don't know why I couldn't help it. Ha ha ha, don't blame me, brother Lu. Peppa_Boar, there's an old saying that you'll be struck by lightning if you show off. It's true, this slap in the face is loud and clear. Watermelon_Taro, screenshot emoji. This swollen face has been included in my battle emoji collection, laughing emoji. A_Mammoth, I laughed so hard while I was eating. I'll ask Guild Master Lu Zhan if he'll pay for my meal, laughing emoji. Poverty makes me trash. I think this scene should be recorded in the history of battle, laughing emoji. At that moment, Lu Zhan was in despair. Not only did he fail to show off, he was also beaten up by the big goose. He felt so embarrassed. What made him even more desperate was that although the big goose kept slapping him in the face, its HP was dropping very slowly. Lu Zhan suspected that it would take a long time for it to slap him to death. Lu Zhan could not help but beg for mercy. Brother, please stop. Let's talk this out. Tong Kei's eyes flashed with a hint of joy when he heard that. He thought to himself, revenge has just begun, how can I stop? He immediately slapped Lu Zhan's head to the side. Talk this out? I don't like to talk. I like to solve everything with violence. As he spoke, he flapped his wings faster and turned into a phantom. Lu Zhan's head gradually became blurry due to the rapid slapping. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. While slapping, Tong Kei provoked Lu Zhan verbally from time to time, causing both psychological and physical damage to him. Meanwhile, the guild members were scared out of their wits. They had no intention of helping Lu Zhan, they even had the urge to run away. However, as he slapped, Lu Zhan suddenly realized that the strength of the big goose's slapping was getting weaker and slower. Most importantly, the layer of green energy on the surface of the big goose's body was slowly fading away. Lu Zhan was not the only one who noticed that something was wrong. Tong Gua seemed to have noticed it as well. While slapping, his expression gradually became awkward. "I'll beat you to death. Brother, don't move. Let me help you up." Tong Gua was about to pull Lu Zhan up from the ground. Chapter 128. Naturally, Lu Wu and Bai Li had noticed Lu Zhan's encounter with Tong Gua. Lu Wu and Bai Li were also stunned by Tong Gua's embarrassing performance. Thinking of this, Lu Zhan immediately slapped Tong Gua to the ground. He then bent down to pick up his sword and approached. "Ahem, listen carefully. I'll read one sentence, and you'll say one sentence." 500 words were omitted. After some thought, Lu Zhan put away his weapon and rolled up his sleeves. He was ready to take revenge on Tong Gua before completing the mission. Lu Wu and Bai Li were looking at Tong Gua the Ghost King with disdain. Tong Gua the Ghost King was confused. In order to survive, he immediately followed Lu Zhan's words, but he felt that something was wrong. When he read the last few sentences, Tong Gua's face was filled with grief and indignation. The viewers in the live streaming channel were speechless. Bai Li gathered a huge hammer in her hand and smashed it at Tong Gua. She smiled and murmured, "Ah, I'm killing a crane. Help. A crane can be humiliated but not killed. You can hit me, scold me, and insult me, but please don't kill me." Tong Gua raised his head and screamed. "Little Li says hello to you, Tong Gua the Ghost King." In the artifact space. "Big Goose, why are you so weak now? I'll say hello to you." "Big Goose." Tong Gua immediately gave up when he saw Lu Zhan raise his sword in an unfriendly manner. Lu Wu was speechless. Sure enough, to Bai Li, the biggest grudge was the grudge of someone stealing her food. Lu Wu immediately recorded this important incident in his mind in case he made the same mistake in the future. "Brother, no discord, no concord. We're even now. We'll be brothers from now on. Don't worry, I'll definitely help you if you need my help in the future. My name, Tong Gua the Ghost King, is definitely useful in Baiki." The reward of this mission was very generous, especially the custom-made weapon of epic level. Lu Zhan was very tempted. "Yo, it's Little Li. Come and greet me." At this moment, the players suddenly felt that Big Goose was a disgrace to the other Ghost Kings. Tong Gua was speechless. "Big Goose, do you want to live?" Lu Zhan raised his sword and threatened Tong Gua. However, Bai Li waved her hand. The artifact condensed a ball of soul power in the air and flowed into Tong Gua the Ghost King's body. Lu Zhan felt that something was wrong. After careful consideration, his expression gradually turned ferocious. Lu Zhan also received the mission completion notification. "It's better to live than to die," Tong Gua comforted himself while feeling grief and indignation. However, after waiting for a while, Tong Gua, who did not feel any pain, quietly opened one of his eyes and found Lu Zhan standing on the same spot with a conflicted expression. Lu Zhan fell into a dilemma when he saw the quest reward and glanced at the annoying Tong Gua the Ghost King. Before Zhan finished speaking, Zhan slsls the Li, Bei Zhan. Bei. Zhan was. Tong Gua, who had yet to understand why he was here, put his hands on his waist and said proudly, in Bai Li's opinion, Tong Gua the Ghost King was too useful. Apart from being the reincarnation of the land of Baiki's guardian spirit, he was also a very powerful blacksmith. The first blacksmith in Baiki who once researched the rune warrior rose to fame after learning from Tong Gua. "Damn it, is this a soul sacrifice oath? Do you really want to capture me and make me your mount, you bastard?" Lu Wu and Bai Li set their eyes on Tong Gua. They wanted to recruit him as a new special NPC. Bai Li nodded obediently. The hammer in her hand turned into nothingness and a 100-meter-long machete was condensed. Tong Gua the Ghost King was required to complete the quest with the help of an epic-level weapon as a reward. Special mission: Recruit, yes. Tong Gua was energized again. However, it was Bei Li's suggestion to recruit Tong Gua the Ghost King. It could be said that Tong Gua the Ghost King was the real blacksmith in Beiki. Tong Gua was dumbfounded. However, he kept nodding his head as he was afraid that Lu Zhan would regret it. Lu Zhan was stunned. However, he did not care about the soul sacrifice. He rolled up his sleeves and waved his fist at Tong Gua, who was lying on the ground. Tong Gua's face turned pale when he heard Bei Li's question. Slap. Weren't you very arrogant just now? Where's your arrogance? Lu Zhan rubbed his swollen face after regaining the upper hand. His killing intent soared. Tong Gua, who was pulled back from death, quickly waved his hand. He knew that the big white goose seemed to have lost its magic power again and became a weak chicken. At this moment, a crack formed above Tong Gua and sucked him in. Lord Tong Gua the Ghost King, do you need me to do anything else? However, Lu Zhan felt that he had suffered a great loss if he let this big goose go. The strong and majestic image of the Ghost King standing on a boulder was wiped out by Tong Gua's coquettish shout. At this stage, Lu Wu had more than 100 NPCs under his command. However, their ability to create weapons was limited. Other than a fixed template of weapons that could be condensed directly by soul power, they could not create a difficult personal weapon. Mission reward: 10,000 bound soul coins, a custom-made epic-level weapon, level 50. Do you have a grudge against him? Lu Wu asked softly. Tong Gua, who was knocked to the ground, smiled apologetically. Alright, recite it with me. I'll let you live once you're done. Lu Zhan's eyes flashed with a smile. Under Lu Wu's persuasion, Bei Li finally dispersed the 100-meter-long sword. However, she still stared at Tong Gua with an unfriendly expression, making Tong Gua's hair stand on end. Mission Introduction: Make Tong Gua the Ghost King recite the Oath of Allegiance and become the new NPC of this game. The oath is as follows, 500 words omitted. Little Li, let's talk this out. Put down the hammer first. I've cultivated the way of fate. When I'm fated, I can fight with Tao Wu for a few rounds. However, when I'm not fated, I can't even defeat a wandering soul. I hate it so much. Gritting teeth. Note: bound soul coins cannot be traded among players. They can be used to purchase items in the shop, or in the cultivation pavilion, or when interacting with NPCs. Tong Gua the Ghost King's eyes turned white as his body trembled. He felt that his soul was about to be smashed out. After a series of brutal beatings, Tong Gua lay on the ground with tears in his eyes. He felt that his life was hopeless. He never thought that he would have such a day. Special mission completed. 10,000 bound soul coins have been received. An epic level weapon will be made for the new NPC, Tong Gua the Ghost King, for free after he is born. Please wait. The sword suddenly slid down and slashed at Tong Gua with a whistling sound. Tong Gua closed his eyes in despair. Lu Zhan, who was pulled up, was dumbfounded at first. Tong Gua dusted himself off awkwardly and patted his shoulder. Boom. Are you going to recite it or not? It's too cold on the ground. Brother, stand up and talk. Big Goose, you're such a disgrace. You've brought shame to your Ghost King's name. He can be humiliated but not killed. TSK, TSK, TSK. Bei Li could not help but mock him. He snatched my snacks a few times because he was stronger than me. Bei Li's eyes were filled with tears as she thought of the past. The 100-meter-long sword in her hand began to extend again. When he finished reciting the 500-word soul allegiance oath, Tong Gua looked up at the sky. He felt neither joy nor sorrow in his heart. He only felt that his life was a failure. It was so sad and miserable. Chapter 129. Upon hearing Tong Gua's explanation, Lu Wu and Bei Li burst out laughing, while Tong Gua looked constipated. Don't laugh. If you cultivate the heavenly art of randomness to the extreme, you'll be qualified to become a god. Do you know how to become a god? The demonic god is so powerful. Bei Li nodded with a look of understanding. She then waved her hand and a video appeared in the air. Tong Gua's shouting could be heard from the video. Crane can be humiliated but not killed. You can beat me and humiliate me, but please don't. Tong Gua was speechless. Lu Wu was speechless. Can you delete it? Tong Gua asked angrily. No. Bailey answered without hesitation. Can you let me out? Tong Gua asked expectantly. No. Then can you remove the soul contract? No. Bailey's reply infuriated Tong Gua. Then what do you want me to do? Stop pretending, Big Goose. You should know what your value is. Now I'll give you a choice. Let me modify your soul and put you back, or die here. It was not that Bailey had not thought of directly modifying Tong Gua's soul. However, Tong Gua's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Ghost King realm, and his soul had solidified. If she were to forcibly modify Tong Gua's soul, it would probably be incomplete. Hence, she could only resort to coercion. Tong Gua glared at the two choices given by Bailey and stomped his foot again. You really want to enslave this king? You should know that when the king of Baiki was still around, he treated me as a distinguished guest. How about this? I'll be your subordinate, but forget about the soul enslavement. Let's both take a step back and we'll see each other again in the future. The ability to modify souls was difficult even for the gods, but Tong Gua was not confident at all. In Tong Gua's eyes, Bailey was very mysterious. She was weak, but she was highly valued by the king of Baiki. Under such circumstances, Tong Gua was really afraid that Bailey had such an ability. Do I look like I'm negotiating with you? The broadsword in Bailey's hand gradually took shape. I heard that crane meat is delicious, Lu Wu interrupted from the side. When it came to food, Bailey's eyes lit up, making Tong Gua's feathers stand on end. As the broadsword was slowly raised, the timid Tong Gua immediately began to beg for mercy. Stop, stop, stop. I agree, but you have to tell me what to do. Tong Gua's answer made Lu Wu and Bailey smile. You'll know soon enough. Open your soul and let the power of the divine artifact pour into your soul. As she spoke, Bailey focused her mind. The invisible energy emitted from the artifact instantly locked onto Tong Gua and surged into his body. Big Goose, stop struggling. You don't want your soul to be incomplete, do you? Bailey could not help but remind him while she was modifying Tong Gua. The goose was sprawled on the ground, staring blankly at the sky in the relic. It looked as if it had lost faith in the world, and was trying to tell the goose to ignore it. After half an hour of remodeling, Bailey heaved a sigh of relief and said to Lu Wu happily, Wu, it's done. Lu Wu nodded and looked at Tong Gua, who was still lying on the ground. After the transformation was complete, Tong Gua flapped his wings and stood up slowly, but there was a hint of fear in his eyes. Little Li, you actually dared to go against the rules of the 3 dimensions and control the strength of the mortals in the mortal dimension. You're too daring. Do you know what will happen if you're found out? Tong Gua had now become an NPC in the game, just like the Wood Spirit clan. His soul was engraved with the content of Battle Online and the reincarnation contract that he could not reveal the existence of the artifact, Lu Wu and Bailey. Therefore, Lu Wu and Bailey were not worried that Tong Gua would find out about this secret. You don't have to worry too much. You've already seen your mission panel. Just do your part. Since we dared to do it, we're not afraid of being found out, Bailey said confidently. Tong Gua was terrified. He knew that if this matter was exposed, they would have to face the suppression of the immortal realm, and the end result would be the destruction of their souls. Looking at his NPC panel, Tong Gua felt as if he had been dragged into a pirate ship. Moreover, it was the kind of pirate ship that would not allow him to leave. NPC: Tong Gua, Master Blacksmith. The Ghost King of Baiki's illusory land. After repentance, he voluntarily joined the Baiki army and is now the #1 blacksmith in Baiki. NPC ability: complete Master Tong Gua's random missions or provide materials and spend a high amount of soul coins to forge a custom-made epic level equipment. Note: provide king level and above spiritual materials to forge a legendary level equipment. NPC requirement: personal check, forge 5 pieces of epic level equipment or 1 piece of legendary level equipment per day. Failure to complete will result in obliteration. It can't be. 5 a day? Are you trying to tire me to death? If there's no business one day, I'll be dead for sure. Moreover, forging weapons of this quality requires soul cores. Where am I going to find so many soul cores? Bailey chuckled when she heard that. She entered another message into Tong Gua's mind. Wow, soul power extraction, turning into soul coins. The player has a lot of soul coins. Tong Gua's lips curled into a smile. Will I get a bonus for forging equipment? The fear in Tong Gua's heart faded away. All that remained was his desire for soul power. He knew how precious soul power was, but he did not expect the artifact to have such an ability. It could directly extract the soul power of a dead creature and turn it into its own. Even though he had reached the peak of the Ghost King level, soul power was still very important to Tong Gua. It was an indispensable aid for him to continue to improve his strength. Bailey glanced at Lu Wu and saw him nodding his head. She then said, "The cost of forging an epic level weapon is set at 10,000 to 30,000 soul coins. You can take 200 soul coins as a bonus for each weapon you forge." Bailey set the limit of 5 weapons a day to prevent Tong Gua from slacking off. Anyway, Lu Wu would provide the materials. Even if the weapons could not be sold, they could still be sold in the shop. Hence, there was no need to worry about wastage. She had also taken into consideration the fact that Tong Gua could issue quests. Although Tong Gua could rely on the ability to issue quests to drive players to do certain things, he also had to provide soul coins as quest reward. In order to ensure fairness, Bailey had also set up an NPC monitoring system in the artifact to ensure that every issued quest and the corresponding rewards matched. Furthermore, NPC quests had to be reviewed by the monitoring system before they were issued. If the reward did not match the difficulty of the quest, the NPC would be rejected. Lu Wu and Bailey had considered this before. This was the first time it was officially running, and Tong Gua was the first NPC who could issue quests. Of course, this improvement was also to improve the interaction between the NPC and the players, and to make the game more interesting. Tong Gua, who was initially looking forward to it, immediately pulled a long face when he heard that it was only 200 soul coins. You get 70 and I get 30. I'm a ghost after all. I agree. Tong Gua agreed immediately with a bitter look on his face when he saw half of the sword hilt in Bei Li's hand. Little Li, what is this artifact? How can it be so powerful? If the king of Beiki had this, he would be invincible. Tong Gua was filled with curiosity. He could not understand what this artifact that could connect the Yin and Yang realms, lock onto souls, and extract soul power was. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. You're just an NPC now. Later, I'll help you build a forging room in the mansion of the dead. Get ready to work. You haven't completed your quest today. Tong Gua sighed when he heard that. He could not help but let out a long sigh in his heart. He had no choice but to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. Don't be afraid, Big Goose. You'll be my follower from now on. Now that you know how powerful the artifact is, work hard and you'll have a good life every day. Lu Wu smiled and patted Big Goose's shoulder. Who's this stupid cat? Your pet? A mount? Tong Gua looked at Lu Wu in disdain. After that, Tong Gua sized up Bei Li's height and took a closer look at Lu Wu. He made a guess with certainty. He said confidently, "It must be a mount." Bei Li was speechless. The smile on Lu Wu's face gradually disappeared, and the murderous intent in his heart increased. Chapter 130. After a round of brutal beatings, Lu Wu left the artifact space, leaving Bei Li and Tong Gua, the Ghost King, who was lying on the ground, barely breathing. Tong Gua was mentally exhausted. He had never been beaten up in his life, but he had been beaten up 3 times in just a few hours. 3 times. Bailey looked at Tongua, who was crying silently, and chuckled. With a wave of her hand, she teleported Tongua to the mansion of the dead. In the afternoon, the players were surprised to find a new building in the center of the mansion of the dead. The plaque on the building read, Tonggua's Forging Workshop. The appearance of a new function always aroused the curiosity of the players. Hence, many of them gathered in front of the forging workshop to see what new functions had been added to the game. As the players approached, the details of the forging workshop's functions appeared. Tonggua's Forging Workshop, function, Master Tonggua's residence. Provides services to forge epic and legendary quality weapons, below level 100. The players were undoubtedly surprised to see the functions of the forging workshop. However, they soon realized that the door of the forging workshop could not be pushed open, which meant that they could not enter at all. At this moment, the players found a board hanging on the door and window of the forging workshop. There were a few lines of words written on it in a crooked manner. Rules of Tonggua's Forging Workshop 1. I will open the door whenever I want. Don't knock on the door for no reason, or I will beat you to death. 2. Don't try to build a good impression with me. In my eyes, you are just a weak worm. You are not worthy of a relationship. 3. Don't appear in my sight if you don't have money. You can't afford it anyway. 4. After opening for business, greet Master Tonggua as soon as you enter the room before asking what you want to do. 5. Don't make a bunch of requests or bargain when customizing a weapon. Master Tonggua is a ghost king after all. I'm already giving you face by not charging for meeting you. 6. Tonggua reserves the right to interpret the above rules. No objection, it will be invalid even if you object. The players were stunned when they saw the rules of Tonggua's Forging Workshop. Is it really okay for an NPC to be so capricious? A few players could not help but knock on the door. They wanted to see who this Master Tonggua was. After banging for about 5 minutes, the door opened with a bang. Tonggua walked out with his sleepy eyes and his legs splayed out. What's with the noise? Didn't you see the rules written on the board? Tonggua slammed the board hanging by the window twice. Tonggua's performance stunned the players. Previously, all the NPCs they met in the game treated them with respect. It was their first time seeing someone as arrogant as Tonggua. What are you looking at? Have you never seen a celestial crane before? Tonggua roared in dissatisfaction as he looked at the crowd of onlookers. Big Goose, I've completed my task. Hurry up and forge me an epic-level weapon. A figure squeezed through the crowd and appeared in front of Tonggua. As Tonggua was about to curse, a notification from the artifact rang in his mind. Quest completed by Lujan. Quest reward. 1 level 50 epic equipment, optional part. Tonggua, who was about to throw a tantrum when he saw the notification of the mission reward, finally held it in. He raised his head and looked at Lujan with a hint of resentment in his eyes. If it were not for Lujan, he would not have been forced to become an NPC. More importantly, this brat had beaten him up before, yet he had to forge a custom-made weapon for him. Tonggua felt sad. However, he could not resist the setting of the artifact, or else he would be obliterated. He could only obey it obediently. Get in here. After Lujan entered the forging room, Tonggua slammed the door shut again, leaving the players outside dumbfounded. On the 3rd day after Tonggua's appearance, a sticky post on the forum caught Lu Wu's attention. Assassin's Creed. Damn, can we kill such a shameless NPC? I can't hold it in anymore. Why does he look at me with disdain every time we meet on the road? Did I offend him? Peppa Boar. I wanted to forge a level 50 epic level weapon, but this bastard asked for 10,000 soul coins. Not only that, when I was about to leave, he even muttered, poor bastard. He pissed me off, furious. Invincible_loneliness. You guys are lucky. Do you know what happened to me? This big goose asked me to borrow soul coins, saying that he had spent all his soul coins and had no money to buy alcohol at the Wood Spirit Clan. I really want to strangle him to death. _mammoth. Motherf *cur, I saw this post too late. This bastard has already borrowed 300 soul coins from me. I really did lend it to him in order to make a good impression. I regret it so much. I want to ask him if he will return the money, heartache. Demolition Officer _Captain. Fortunately, I've been by the sea. I haven't been to the mansion of the dead recently, so I didn't meet this bastard. However, I'm already thinking about what I should do when I forge epic-level equipment in the future. What a headache. Crayon _Shinchan. Tonghua, you weak bugs seem to be talking about me. This is the first slap in the face. Picture of the big goose flapping its wings and slapping faces. Jiantian replied to Crayon _Shinchan. Bastard, delete this picture. Crayon _Shinchan replied to Jiantian. I won't delete it. It's already my meme pack. Bite me. Laughing emoji. Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry at Tonghua's behavior. However, he was once a ghost king. As long as he completed the task, Lu Wu would turn a blind eye. At this moment, the culprit Tonghua was sitting by a cliff by the sea. He was enjoying the sea breeze and drinking wine. He looked drunk. I miss it. The wine brewed by the Wood Spirit Clan is really delicious. Cheers, brothers. Tonghua raised his glass as he spoke. Upon seeing this, the two people beside him also reached out their hands and clinked glasses with Tonghua. Then, the three of them drank their wine in one gulp. Big brother, I can understand how you're feeling right now. It's really a painful thing to follow fate. Fate is AF * king bastard. Yi Chen, who was drunk, reached out and put his arm around Tonghua's shoulder as he spoke. It's more than painful. Back then, I was recognized as the strongest ghost king in the land of Beiki. Look at me now, I've become a blacksmith. I feel so bitter. Tonghua put his arm around Yi Chen's shoulder as he spoke. Their hearts resonated. You're my brother now. As your big brother, I can't treat you badly. Why don't you follow me and practice the heavenly law of fate? Hearing that, Yi Chen opened his eyes that were still blurry from drunkenness. The heavenly law of fate? Wouldn't it be more up to fate to practice it? I'm not learning it. Upon hearing this, Tonghua glared at him. Brother, don't underestimate the heavenly law of fate. Once you've mastered it, you can become a god as powerful as the demonic god. Really? Yi Chen also widened his eyes. Why would I lie to you? From tomorrow onwards, I'll teach you the heavenly law of fate. Once you've mastered it, you'll be able to go anywhere. By then, you'll be able to show off as much as you want. Upon hearing the word show off, the figure on Tonghua's left seemed a little emotional. Tonghua and Yi Chen immediately turned to look at him. Brother, what's wrong with you? Lu Chai took a sip of wine and a hint of regret appeared on his face. It felt good to show off for a while, but after that, I can't even enter the instance dungeon anymore. My 2 months of hard work have all gone to waste. Tonghua was speechless. Yi Chen was speechless. Brother, you've paid a high price for showing off. My condolences. Tonghua and Yi Chen reached out and patted Lu Chai's shoulder to comfort him. By the way, brother Lu Chai, I heard that your fist technique is very powerful? Tonghua took a sip of wine and asked with squinted eyes. It's all right. I'm not afraid of anyone in this game. You're also my brother. Since brother Yi has learned the heavenly law of fate from me, I'll show you a bright path. Upon hearing this, Lu Chai raised his head with drunken eyes and asked, What's the bright path that you're talking about, big brother? Tonghua lowered his head and thought for a while. Then, he said, There's a prison island in the void ocean. There's a powerhouse with superb fist technique living there. If brother Lu Chai's talent can satisfy him, you might be able to obtain an extremely powerful inheritance. Upon hearing this, Lu Chai was a little tempted. Big brother, How powerful is this fist technique master? He once fought with the king of Baiki and lost. However, I feel that he did not exert his full strength. Anyway, he's many times stronger than I was back then. That's amazing! Lu Chai's eyes widened. He knew that although Tong Gua looked weak, he was once a powerhouse at the peak of the Ghost King realm. He's indeed powerful, but this person has a weird personality. I don't think he's a living being. He's more like a puppet that's been made. There's not a trace of soul power fluctuation in his body. Of course, he might be hiding it well. In short, he's very difficult to deal with. If you want to go, you must be mentally prepared. Lu Chai nodded. I'll go. Then, the three of them put their arms around each other's shoulders and drank again. During this time, they each talked about their inner frustrations. In the end, they all shed tears of regret. Chapter 131. The Void Ocean, Captivity Island. A private specter ship sailed from afar. As it approached the coast, a figure jumped off the ship, turned around, and kept the specter ship. It should be here. Lu Chai glanced at the map and murmured after confirming the coordinates. This island was completely different from the islands Lu Chai had been to before. The entire island looked bare, there were no trees, and the land was black. There were huge carbonized stones everywhere, making it look very desolate. After looking around, Lu Chai's eyes were quickly attracted by a castle built with black stones at the top of the mountain. According to Tong Gua, the strange fist master seemed to be in this castle. Thinking of this, Lu Chai quickly walked toward the castle. This island was very strange. It looked lifeless, and there were no beasts along the way. Without any obstacles, Lu Chai easily arrived at the castle at the top of the mountain. The gate of the castle was open. When Lu Chai was about to step in, he found a skeleton sitting beside the gate. There were a few lines of words written on the top of the skeleton. Lu Chai could not understand these words. Fortunately, with the analyzing ability of the artifact, the words gradually became clear in the distortion. One day I passed away. Those who loved me missed me deeply, and those who hated me danced. On the third day after my death, my body was buried deep underground. Those who hated me laughed while looking at my grave, but those who loved me dared not look straight at it, tears rolling down their cheeks. 3 years later, my bones had decomposed, and my grave was weathered by the wind and rain. Those who hated me occasionally mentioned me after a meal, and those who loved me missed me with silent tears in the dead of night. 100 years later, my body was gone, and only my remains were left. Those who hated me only vaguely remembered my name, but had forgotten my face. Those who loved me deeply, when they thought of me, there was a brief silence, but everything was already a blur. 1,000 years later, my grave became a wasteland. Those who hated me had forgotten me, and those who loved me deeply had also lost their memories of me. To this world, I had completely become nothingness. I struggled all my life, but I could not take away a single blade of grass or a single tree. I was persistent all my life, but I could not take away a single bit of vanity or love. I wanted to cry, but I could not make a sound. I wanted to repent, but it was already too late. Love, hate, affection, and hatred were nothing in the face of death. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years later, a handful of soil. Lu Chai felt an inexplicable pain in his heart when he saw this sentence. This line of text seemed to have a magical power. It infected Lu Chai's emotions through the text, as if there was a hoarse voice narrating his past. Looking at the skeleton, Lu Chai sighed. He then straightened his body and walked into the castle. But at this moment, a black light flashed in the skeleton's eyes. It suddenly disappeared from where it was and appeared in front of Lu Chai, scaring him. Hello, I'm here to look for someone." The skeleton did not speak. It just stared straight at Lu Chai as the black soul fire in its skull flickered weakly. This gave Lu Chai a headache. When he wanted to walk sideways, the skeleton blocked his way again. "He is already dead." A hoarse voice appeared in Lu Chai's mind. Lu Chai was stunned when he heard the voice. he asked subconsciously. The Fist Master is dead? The skeleton gently nodded. The news stunned Lu Chai on the spot. He had thought that he would gain something from this trip, but he did not expect that the Fist Master was already dead. Lu Chai raised his head to look at the castle again. He asked unwillingly, "Can I go in and have a look?" The skeleton did not answer this time. The soul fire in its skull surged and it reached out to grab Lu Chai's right hand. Lu Chai's left hand suddenly hit the skeleton's jaw out of reflex. However, even though this punch hit the skeleton, it did not cause any damage. Instead, a bloody -3 appeared on top of his head. The heart of a powerhouse. What a good seedling. What heart of a powerhouse? Let go of me. Lu Chai immediately roared when he felt the pain in his wrist. Don't you want to learn boxing? I can teach you, but you have to promise me one thing. The skeleton's hoarse voice appeared in Lu Chai's mind again. Didn't you say that he was dead? Lu Chai was stunned. Am I still alive? Lu Chai was speechless. Lu Chai was speechless. He even felt that it made sense. It seemed that the guy in front of him was indeed dead, completely dead. Are you the Fist Master, the powerhouse who once fought with the king of Baiki and was defeated? The skeleton's soul fire flickered a few times, and then it nodded. Lu Chai was excited when he heard the skeleton's acknowledgement. He did not expect to get the inheritance so easily. Come on, teach me. You haven't promised me anything. I'll teach you if you promise me. Lu Chai was stunned. What do you want me to promise you? To find Mu Zhiguang's lost memory. Mu Zhiguang? What does that mean? At this time, the soul fire in the skeleton's skull flickered, and then a piece of information appeared in Lu Chai's mind, allowing him to understand what Mu Zhiguang meant. From this vague information, Lu Chai knew that there used to be a top force in the Void Ocean, the Mu Taisi Nation. It was a powerful force that once ruled the entire Void Ocean during its peak. The source of this information came from a little boy who was locked up in a prison. His name was Mu Zhiguang, and he was born in the noblest family of the Mu Taisi Nation, the Crown Scepter family. From a young age, he believed that the power of death was the most evil, and that mastering the power of death would cause one to fall. However, as he grew up, he realized that he was different from his clansmen. He actually possessed the most evil talent of death, which was not the power of the sea of his clan. This made him deeply anxious and fearful. He did not know if he would fall, or even become an evil servant, and become a disgrace to his clan. Just as he thought, when his clansmen found out about his talent of death, they imprisoned him, and even wanted to execute him. The following information was very vague, or even fragmented. Lu Chai saw that the Mu Taisi Nation and a powerful force of death from the deep sea were fighting. These evil forces from the bottom of the sea were too powerful. Under their invasion, the Mu Taisi Nation gradually declined. At this moment, a man stood up. In this country that hated death, he used the power of death to protect his clansmen. The world kissed me with pain, but I returned it with a song. Under Mu Zhiguang's leadership, his clansmen fought back and fought against the force of death from the deep sea. The following information was blurred again. In the end, Lu Chai saw the entire sea nation being pulled by a whirlpool of death from the bottom of the sea, and the island was torn apart. It was still Mu Zhiguang, who had mastered the power of death, who pulled the part of the island where his clansmen were out of the whirlpool of death. The entire Mu Taisi nation was torn apart as a result. A once glorious nation collapsed just like that. However, the tragedy was not over yet. Those clansmen who escaped from the whirlpool of death were infected by the power of death from the bottom of the sea. Their bodies began to rot, and they turned into zombies that lost their consciousness. Seeing this, Mu Zhiguang, who was powerless to save them, was undoubtedly sad. He had thought of killing them, so that his clansmen would be free. However, this kind man could not bring himself to do it, and in the end, he chose to imprison them. As his consciousness slowly recovered, Lu Chai lifted his head and looked at the castle. Are they imprisoned here? The skeleton shook its head. This is just a spiritual sustenance that I built based on my memory. I don't know where they went. I only remember that my clansmen were imprisoned in this castle. As it spoke, the soul flame in the skeleton's eyes gradually dimmed. Are you Mu Zhiguang? The skeleton shook its head again. I should be a part of his body. I am not the complete Mu Zhiguang. That's why I only received his fragmented memories, but I can't remember the complete past. Hearing the skeleton's explanation, Lu Chai frowned. What should I do? How can I find him? Chapter 132. Just as I said, find the rest of Mu Zhiguang's body, and retrieve his lost memories. Let me know the final answer. The skeleton's answer gave Lu Chai a headache. He was here to learn boxing, not to look for mutilated bodies. This was not in line with his original purpose. Are you willing? Legacy mission activated. Death Sun mission details. Find the remaining body parts of Mu Zhiguang mission reward. Unknown. Do you wish to accept this quest? Boss, where do you want me to find it? At least give me some hints. It's immoral of you to issue a mission like this, Lu Chai said helplessly. The skeleton did not answer but waited for Lu Chai's reply. Alright. I'll find it, alright? Hurry up and teach me your fist technique. Upon hearing Lu Chai's agreement, the weak soul fire in the skeleton's mind flickered again. It then shook its head. The power of death in my body has been exhausted. I don't think I can exist for much longer. I can't pass on the fist intent to you. Lu Chai was stunned. Are you kidding me? The skeleton shook its head again. Suddenly, its body began to burn and turned into a mass of dark liquid. It quickly attached itself to Lu Chai's right arm. At that moment, a game notification appeared. Obtained incomplete inheritance. Death's Son introduction of inheritance. Receive the power of the right arm of the Son of Death, Mu Zhiguang, owner's spirit. Inherited abilities. Obtain God's right arm, special passive. Master body of the dead, special passive. Master fist intent, right fist. Obtain death curse, special negative state. God's right arm, special passive. Skill introduction. Mu Zhiguang's right arm transformed into a special arm after the power of death was exhausted. Although there is no divine power left, there is still a strong power, residual consciousness inside. Skill attribute. Right arm has received a 100% increase in strength, gained the special characteristic, Indestructible Max, gained the special characteristic, Shattering LV3. Indestructible Max. The right arm has no durability consumption and cannot be destroyed by power below the level of a god. Shatter LV3. Using the god's right arm to collide with the enemy's weapon, there is a chance to damage the enemy's weapon. This effect is affected by the user's strength and the quality of the enemy's weapon. Body of the Dead, special passive. Skill introduction. Death is not the end, but a new life. Skill attribute. After death, the user will transform into the undead body, all attributes reduced by 50%, and continue to fight for 10 minutes. Cooldown time, 24 hours. Fist intent, right fist, LV1. Skill introduction, a special ability derived from God's right arm skill ability. All fist skill damage increased by 20%. As the user has not comprehended the true meaning of fist intent, it can only be used with the right fist. Death curse, special negative status. Curse details. A curse placed by Mu Zhiguang's right arm before its transformation. If it is unable to complete his instructions, the god's right arm will automatically shatter. Curse duration. You must obtain the next body part within 365 days, or you will fail the mission. Game notification, quest update, legacy mission. Death Sun mission details. Find Mu Zhiguang's body parts and obtain his complete memories. Mission reward. For every body part collected, you will receive part of Mu Zhiguang's inheritance. Note: total number of remains? Unable to obtain detailed information, Lu Chai was stunned for a few seconds when he saw the inherited attribute that he suddenly obtained. Grasping his right arm that was filled with power, he suddenly did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had actually obtained the power of inheritance so easily. However, what made him speechless was that although the mission was to find body parts, there were no mission instructions and he did not know where to find them. Moreover, if he did not complete the mission, the inheritance would disappear. This made Lu Chai very frustrated. It seemed like he could only ask Tong Gua. Lu Chai helplessly raised his head and looked at the stone castle in front of him. After thinking for a while, he walked in. However, this time, no one could stop him. At the same time that Lu Chai obtained the inheritance, on the peak of the cliffs of desperation, the skull of the skeleton, that was sitting cross-legged next to the pillar pagoda, suddenly gave birth to a weak soul fire. After it opened and closed its mouth a few times, the soul fire was extinguished again. At the same time, in the wooden house on the mountainside, the white-haired old man who was dozing off suddenly opened his eyes. Oh, it's getting more and more lively. Even Mu Zhiguang's inheritance has appeared. TSK. Interesting, interesting. After saying that, the white-haired old man closed his eyes again. Soon, the house was filled with thunderous snores. Entering the castle, Lu Chai found that it was empty and there was nothing placed inside. Through the light refracted from the outside, he could see that there were many records of the Mu Tihai nation carved on the walls of the stone castle. Lu Chai, who was not interested in these things, was about to leave when he suddenly found a familiar figure on the left wall. He immediately approached the wall and looked at it carefully. The unshaven face, the burly figure, and the iconic chest hair. Isn't this the Sea King? Lu Chai's eyes widened. In the mural, the guy who looked very similar to the Sea King was kneeling in front of a blurry figure, seemingly swearing allegiance to the figure. Damn, the Sea King is the remaining descendant of the Mu Tihai nation? Lu Chai's eyes widened. At this moment, a pair of blue eyes suddenly appeared on the figure of the Sea King on the mural. Who is calling me? Lu Chai was speechless. Who are you? Why are you calling me? Lu Chai was a little confused. He did not know how the image on the mural could be related to the Sea King. As for the Sea King, Lu Chai did not have a good impression of him after coming into contact with many sea races. Moreover, he knew that this person was definitely the enemy of the players. Naturally, he would not be polite to him. What's wrong? Can't I call you if I have nothing to do? How dare you? Who are you? And why do you have the special communication will of the Mu Tihai nation? Not only do I have it, but do you see my right hand? I even have your ancestor in my hand. Lu Chai replied unceremoniously. Your King asking for it. Believe it or not, I'll slap you to death. Come on, if I don't see you in 5 seconds, you're a coward. The Sea King, blocked word, Lu Chai, blocked word. The two of them instantly started cursing each other from a distance. They cursed each other's friends, family, and their sleeping ancestor. While cursing, the Sea King suddenly froze. Then, he became furious. You're the one who snatched my son of the sea? That's right. I snatched 2 of them and ate them all. They tasted so good that I even wanted to eat a 3rd one. Do you have more, Sea King? Send me another one to quench my thirst. The Sea King was furious. He did not expect the person in front of him to be the one who snatched his treasures. At this moment, the Sea King's body in the Crystal Palace was trembling slightly. His heart was boiling with anger. Then, he slammed the table in front of him. Men, gather the army and follow me to battle. What the CK, are you serious? Don't even think about running away. I've already locked on to your position. Just wait for your death. Remember to bring the Son of the Sea when you come. Don't make me wait too long. Lu Chai said as he raised his middle finger. Then, he waved his right arm forward and smacked the pair of blue eyes away. Phew, that's awesome. Lu Chai, who ended the conversation, chuckled. He immediately trotted out of the stone castle and headed toward the coast. Running away after cursing? How exciting! Lu Chai immediately summoned the specter ship when he arrived at the shore. He quickly boarded the ship and drove it toward the Liuli coast.